for a couple of tries, but no losing bonus point or no 4-try bonus point for Gloucester in that game. So Munster on 7 points, Cast on 5 points, Gloucester on 4 and Exeter on 3. You do feel that pool is going to go right down to the wire, and that double header of games between Munster and Cast in December are going to be absolutely crucial. For the next couple of hours, as we await some post-match reaction from that game from Munster, we're going to be focusing on the Premier League, because it's 3:15, so we're a little bit late getting to it, and there are plenty of games already underway between Bournemouth and Southampton. Cardiff are taking on Fulham, Manchester City up against Burnley, it's Newcastle against Brighton, West Ham against Spurs, and Wolves against Watford. Huddersfield against Liverpool is the late game. They'll all do well to live up to what we saw in the first game of the day, which finished 2-2 between Chelsea and Manchester United. Antonio Rudiger headed Chelsea in front on 20 minutes. Anthony Martial equalised for United on 55 with a really good volley from close range, and then a brilliant counter-attacking move was finished off by Martial with 17 minutes remaining. So United in front in the 95th minute when Ross Barkley popped up with an equaliser for Chelsea, and that meant it finished 2-2. It also sparked absolute chaos on the sideline when the Chelsea, one of their assistant coaches, Marco Ianni, got a little bit carried away, had a little bit of a celebration right in front of Jose Mourinho, stared down Jose Mourinho, and well, what could Jose do but react? He got up, tried to chase Ianni down the tunnel. There was a bit of pushing and shoving with some stewards who seemed to have that relationship with Mourinho of, we've been here before, yeah, we've worked for you, we're going to hold you back, it's for everybody's good. And we'll hear from Jose in just a second, but I am joined in the studio by Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward, as always, on a Saturday afternoon. How are we?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think good. Like the Chelsea guys, it's like, you know, Jose is a regular in the pub that they all know. Do you know what I mean? Like he's been there a number of times over the years.
He hasn't been in a few years. Now he's back. Like
he hasn't been in a few years, but they know he's.
But there's still a warm.
They know his form. You know what I mean? Like it's not like,
because I'm wondering if you're Maurizio Sarri, are you not thinking, let him at him? Let him at him.
Yeah.
Let him punch him.
Yeah.
Like, this is the story, because actually Ianni is the bad guy in all this.
Oh, yeah, he was out of order, really. Although,
he was totally out of order.
You know, Jose taking a high moral ground about someone going over the top in touchline celebration is a slightly hypocritical sort of offence.
Well, listen, let's hear from Jose Mourinho and what he had to say to Sky Sports about the whole thing after the game.
We were not enough aggressive with the ball to attack the spaces, to have some mobility, but we were there. We were in the game. We controlled their, if you want to call, triggers. Hazard was well controlled, Jorginho. I never saw Jorginho to play so little like he did today, so we were completely in control. We conceded a goal in a set piece, but we were in the game. So the distance between the first and the second half was not as big as it was against Newcastle. In here, after the 2-1, we had again great positions to score the third goal. We were the best team. We were calm. We had complete control, and you know, I hope every referee does the same as Mike did, to give 6 minutes. But normally when I'm losing, I never have 5 or 6 or 7 minutes. But then,
do you understand where those minutes came from?
You know, some changes that every team did. 3 for them, 3 for us. We want to do 2 at the same time, but because Rashford was injured, we couldn't do. But I never saw what the majority of the goalkeepers do in the Premier League, which is to go until the limits of the yellow cards. And David never did that. From us, we always try to play, even with winning 2-1, even on extra time. We want to play. We want to try to kill the game. So we didn't have negative game for that. But that's football. I have nothing to.
What did you make of their first goal? Because even at half-time, Pogba and Lindelof seemed to be disputing what had happened, what had gone wrong. How did you see that?
I don't see, because I'm far. What I can tell you is that we defend mixed. We have some players in the zone. We have some players on opponents. Every player knows with closed eyes which player is his player, which space is his space in case of he is on the zonal. And if something happened where they lost the opponent, or something that made them that way, because they knew it clearly which opponent was his opponent.
Is there more signs of it clicking for your team today? We had the new contract for Luke Shaw early in the week, Anthony Martial, a couple of goals today, another player who maybe the penny is dropping for.
The team played very well. As a team, we played very, very well. And individually, in the second half, they raised the bar. The attacking players, they brought the game into a different dimension. The defensive players, they had a solid performance. Again, I repeat, against a very good team full of very good players. But I'm really, really, really pleased with the individuals, with the team, with the work we did in the last couple of days. I'm really, really pleased with everything, apart of the result, which is an awful result for us.
You showed Chelsea a lot of respect, beginning with your press conference on Friday, said you wouldn't celebrate, didn't really celebrate either goal.
Yeah, I was in control.
Yeah. Do you think you got that respect back?
No, I don't think, but that's not my responsibility, you know. I have a certain level of education, socially and sports, and what I did here today, I will do one day in Madrid, in Porto, in Milan. I will try to behave always the same way which I did. But then the reaction of the fans is up to them. It's not up to me.
So you're more annoyed with the fans than one of Sarri's coaches who runs across you?
No. I'm not annoyed with anything. And what happened was with Sarri assistant, and Sarri was the first one to come to me and to say that he would resolve the problem internally with him. And after that, his assistant come to me in Sarri's office and apologized to me, which I immediately told, if you really feel it that way and you want to apologize, of course I accept apologies and forget it, because I also made lots of mistakes in my career, so I'm not going to kill you because of one.
What did he do? Just run across you?
Forget it, it's over. He apologized and I accept it.
God damn it. I hate it when Jose Mourinho isn't a complete asshole at post-match interviews. This magnanimous, reasoned Jose Mourinho, it's not as much fun.
Yeah, like he's a real human being there, as opposed to like...
Although I say that, at the end he said he has apologised, that's the end of it. At the start he did say, it is the act of an uneducated man.
Yeah.
The last time he called somebody uneducated, I think it was it Cristiano Ronaldo?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's probably been a few people have got that somewhere along the way. He still has another couple of press conferences probably to go through, so let's not maybe jump to conclusions
But I can just wind them up that little bit more.
Wait till see tomorrow morning, it could be something completely different coming out there, but...
He sounded in a better place than he's been, though. You know, he was quite chilled out in the interview, considering how late they conceded the goal, and it would have been a hell of a turnaround considering where they were in the Newcastle game. 2 away victories snatched from defeats, and he didn't sound, he sounded like he was pretty happy with life at the end, and notwithstanding the concession. And you're wondering, has he kind of ridden out the storm? Maybe he has.
What do you think? I still sense that he's one bad performance away from being right in the eye of it again.
I think that's a bit of a sickener. I think a win today, makes this a result that becomes a reference point. I think the draw is easier forgotten, so I think that's probably he is actually, and it's important from his perspective, I'm sure, to come out and stress the positives. And it is one of these things that sometimes, a 30-second lapse in defensive across changes the whole tone of a performance, and that's not fair. You've seen that at teams at all levels over the years, that last minute goal goes in, and suddenly everything that went before is wrong.
Also, the controversy at the end means there'll be very little reasoned analysis of what happened during the 90 minutes.
They defended the cross really badly at the end as well. I mean, there was definitely...
that was regrettable because Hazard had done very little in the game. They really managed him, and they made Chelsea look like the team that they are without Hazard, which is...
In the second half.
Yeah, but he's still... Ashley Young got man of the match. Hazard's influence was fairly limited. And bear in mind now, Matic was very harshly booked early on. That was a real blow for them because he didn't have a particularly good game in the first half.
Like when Harry Arter gets booked.
Yeah.
The engine room.
We're already into
let's not go there.
You told us we're not going into Ireland.
Yes.
But they look more like the Man United team you'd expect under Mourinho, where they had a plan, and in the second half they bossed the first half an hour, And I kind of felt for him a bit at the end because I thought he'd done a very good job on Chelsea. He shut them out to a large degree. They don't have very good defenders, though. That's the point.
It was close to being perfect.
Yeah,
with Martial and Rashford, the Sanchez off the bench.
Pogba was good second half.
It was that close to that perfect away win.
We'll come back to it and we'll get to Stephen Kelly in a moment, but there are some goals in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. The first of them has come at the Etihad Stadium, Manchester City against Burnley. Peter Smith.
City 1, Burnley 0, with City piecing their way through Burnley's defence on 16 minutes. Sane to David Silva rolled along the 6-yard line with Aguero finishing from 7 yards. City 1, Burnley 0.
Also at Molineux there has been a goal. Wolves in smashing form at home against a pretty inconsistent Watford side. Clive Edwards.
It's Wolverhampton 0, Watford 1, a goal straight out of the blue, a drive from 25 yards out by Capoue, left the goalkeeper standing, the Wolves goalkeeper barely moved, it's hit the back of the net like a bullet. It's Wolves 0, Watford 1, it's now Wolves 0, Watford 2, and the second goal has come from Pereira. That's 2 goals in less than 2 minutes. Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, Watford 2.
That would be quite an upset if...
That'd be a shock, yeah, definitely.
Would it?
Watford away from home.
Wolves, I know Watford started the season well,
They've
but
gone a wobble,
Wolves are a particularly impressive side. You wouldn't
I
expect.
started the season for Roberto Pereira as well. He had
Yeah.
another goal. Is that his 4th Premier League goal of the season already, I think?
He's in that ballpark. You'd have to be, yeah. I think
That game's going to have more goals. A lot more goals.
I would have had that as a sort of a home win. So it is a bit of a surprise this early for Watford to be 2 up. But there you go.
Let's go to the Olympic Stadium, see what's happening between West Ham and Spurs and Guy Swindles.
West Ham 0, Spurs 0. Entertaining start to this match. Spurs have just about had the best of it. Harry Winks has looked very solid indeed in midfield and has played players in behind the West Ham defence on a couple of occasions. But the closest they've come, Sissoko's shot that was deflected over the bar. West Ham, though, have been very good on the break. Yarmolenko's dink nearly finding a player at the back post. Didn't quite. West Ham 0, Spurs 0.
Bournemouth against Southampton. It's Alan Lewis.
Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0, but a lively start to this game. Half chances at both ends as well. A mad scramble in the box, or Wilson and Smith almost score for the home side. Wilson doing well on the right, found Brooks as well. He shot wide, and at the other end, Nathan Redmond free kick over the bar, and Højbjerg's had a volley blocked. Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0.
St James's Park, pretty restless place these days. Newcastle at home to Brighton. Adam Drury.
Newcastle 0, Brighton 0. A bright start from the home side, who almost took the lead 5 minutes in when Bong was dispossessed on the edge of the box, playing Perez through on goal, but Ryan did brilliantly to get down low and block the shot away for a corner. We've had a lengthy delay after a horrific clash of heads between Glenn Murray and Federico Fernandez. The Newcastle defender is okay, but Murray didn't move at all. Both sets of players screaming for the stretcher to come onto the pitch. He's since been substituted, will hopefully be okay. Goalless here at St James's Park.
In the Championship, Darragh Lenihan scored the winner as Blackburn beat Leeds 2-1 at Ewood Park earlier today. He was the unlucky one who kept missing out on the squad for the final 23.
It's been unfortunate because he played in the summer, the USA friendly, was it, and did quite well when he came on. Graham Burke stole that goal off him that was about to go in. And yeah, since then he either hasn't made the squad, or when he's made the squad hasn't made the bench. Bit unfortunate. He's playing every week as a centre half in a 2, whereas he'd been playing in a 3, I think, last year. So yeah, he's a talented player, but clearly has to wait to get proper Irish recognition, I suppose.
So Blackburn beat Leeds 2-1. In the 3 o'clock kickoffs, Villa 1-0 up against Swansea. Queen's Park Rangers 1-0 up away against Ipswich, and it's Nottingham Forest 1, Norwich 0. All the rest of the games are still scoreless. In the Scottish Cup, in the Scottish Premiership, Celtic 2-0 up against Hibernian, 25 minutes gone in that game at Celtic Park, and Celtic, with goals from Tom Rogic and Oliver Nchim, have them cruising 2-0 in that game. And a result earlier from La Liga, where Real Madrid, again disappointing, beaten 2-1 by Levante, and they were absolutely destroyed in this game. I was watching it earlier on.
Yeah.
They were 2-0 down, could have been 3 or 4-0 down at home, we should point out as well, at the Bernabeu. It was their longest run ever without scoring a goal after Marcelo got one back.
Did they break the record today, or
They did break the record. Yeah, I think they went over 500 minutes without a goal. So already huge speculation that Lopetegui may well not see out the week. Probably a lot depends on what happens in the Champions League.
Should point out to Ronan Mullen of Off the Ball has put up a tweet saying, and they say professional photography is dead, which is exactly a photo encapsulating what happened on the bench just after the game in Stamford Bridge. I'm not sure he had the right to actually put the photo up. I'm sure he had. But anyway, it's a great photo.
I'm sure he appreciates you calling him out on national radio about
big fan of Ronan's
broken the law or not.
But Mourinho looks utterly disgusted while Sarri is just at the front going on about his business while your man is goading him in the background.
All right, Stephen Kelly is with us as well. Afternoon, Stephen.
Hi, afternoon, as usual.
So, we might get on to what happened right at the end of the game, but overall, in terms of the performance and Jose Mourinho starting with Rashford, Martial, Lukaku, does this look like it's a different Manchester United, that it is a turning point, the performance against Newcastle and the performance today?
Yeah, I think when you look at their front three, it's very dangerous. They've got a lot of pace behind them, strength, and they do look good going forward. But I think for Man U, their problem is being defence throughout the whole season. Realistically, that's a key area for them. That's always been something they've always built really well on. They've always had two centre backs that allow the full backs to push on and not really worry about anything else. But today they looked well. They looked good. They were against a strong Chelsea side who have been very good throughout the season so far. And they played some good football, and Martial come up with 2 goals, and it'd be nice to see him produce on a weekly basis because he's such a talented footballer and still very young. It'd be nice to see him playing week in, week out and putting performances in. But overall, I thought they were better than what they have been, and it might be hopefully a change for Man U now and Mourinho, but it should be only time will tell.
I don't quite understand the defensive struggles, in that part of Mourinho's brilliance was his ability to organise a defence and make players better than they looked, whereas it seems to have gone the complete opposite way. Like, do you look at a back four of Shaw, Smalling, Lindelof and Young and just look at 4 players who aren't at that level, or are they not getting the right instruction, or what are you putting it down to, the problems at the back?
Well, I think it's just what they have to offer. Like, so I think Ashley Young is the makeshift fullback, and he's done extremely well. Don't get me wrong; he's transformed into that player, and he as a right back or left back. Like I said, he's played for England in the World Cup in the summer, and he's done really well. Shaw is an out and out natural left back, and I think he's the one I would think that if the back four was to change, he would keep his place. I think the 2 centre backs, Smalling and Lindelof, I just don't think. You look at the pairings that Man U have had in the past, and they do not meet up or match up to that in any shape or form, I don't think. And that's what Man U have been based upon for a lot of times. They've always had the strength in a pairing of 2 centre-backs that allowed the full-backs to just get on with their business. They would always chip in with defensively, but they were so attack-minded, their full-backs, and allowed to go forward without really worrying about what was happening behind them, because they knew the 2 centre-backs were able to take care of things. And I don't, you look at those 2 players and you just don't think those 2 are capable of doing that for Man U. But again, Mourinho is someone who's always been able to establish himself and get a team working better and players performing at a higher level. So you think he has more time to work with them, it would benefit itself. But I just think Lindelof was a strange sign. I never thought he was going to be the player to come in and be the next Vidic or Ferdinand. I just didn't see that going to happen, and it still hasn't happened yet.
Couple of points of order. We're unfortunately having some problems getting it to our reporter at the Cardiff City Stadium, which is particularly unfortunate today because it's Cardiff 2, Fulham 1 after half an hour. Fulham went in front in that game through Andrew Shurla, but Cardiff have struck back. Josh Murphy and Bobby Reid have given Neil Warnock's side the goal. 53106 is the text number, and we are live on all our social channels as always every Saturday afternoon now, so you can get us on youtube.com/offtheball, facebook.com/offtheball, or on our Twitter page as well, and you can leave any comments and we'll put them to the lads. The first goal came from the corner kick, Johnny, where Paul Pogba lost Antonio Rudiger, and then, I don't know, was he sort of hiding behind Victor Lindelof and sort of blamed Lindelof for stepping across in front of him? Either way, it sounded strange there that Jose Mourinho was saying it was a mix of, we had some players playing zonal marking, we had some players playing man on man.
Stephen would probably know this routine inside out, and we've all seen it. It's basically blocking at a corner, and I'm just wondering though, should Pogba be defending corners at all? Because he was so bad at it in this particular instance. Obviously, athletically, he's fine. So what happened was he did not do his job. A very straightforward blocking routine caught him out cold, allowing the goal to go in. And then he had this kind of petulant jump on the spot, which was, I think, a classic indication of somebody who knew that he was 100% wrong. And he couldn't really blame anyone. He pontificated a bit. And then, funny enough, when they got the second goal, he got a little tip on the head in the celebrations, and he was kind of holding his head, and I'm just like, what is his, I just can't get my head around his kind of just this prima donna. And in the middle of those two instances, he had a good game. But I don't think...
Johnny, give us an insight into the mind of a prima donna.
I don't think he should be defending corners.
He's not denying it, Nathan.
No.
He's like...
It's like narcissism.
I'm not sure you want that insight.
You look at Donald Trump during the week, the clip with the umbrella where, the missus is there and he just literally holds the umbrella over himself for a minute and just he goes in and praises her to the press, but while still, and then he walks off while still holding the umbrella and has no, it's just he actually doesn't know. And I think Pogba is just, I don't know, can he even behave any differently at this stage, because that was ridiculous.
There was no rain when you were on holidays this week, John.
There was a little bit of rain actually, but I'm wondering from Stephen's perspective, should he really be defending corners? I probably just wouldn't have him in the box.
Stephen, on that then, should Paul Pogba, with all his height, should he not be back there? Or do you just think actually if he's not ever going to track a runner, what's the point?
I think he should be in there. I just don't think he should be man-marking somebody. He should be the player that's in the space, because his physical stature, if the ball comes to him, realistically he should win it, but he shouldn't be given a responsibility to mark someone, because how many times, I kind of off my head, I can think of 4 instances where he's lost a man and they've conceded a goal, and I think there've been more where he's actually lost a man and the chances come from it. So to put a responsibility on him that he doesn't seem capable of taking, you take that out of the equation and you think, right, he's a physical attribute, he's a tall guy, take him off that responsibility and give him his own marking space. So you mark that space, you attack the ball in that space. I'm not even too sure whether he's got the gumstring or even the determination to do that, but you're eliminating the factor that he's going to lose his man. So that's how you deal with that. You should have him in the box because his physical presence should be used in those situations, but you don't give him a responsibility, because so many times he loses his man or gets mixed up or gets blocked, and but if he's in there in a space and he has to just attack the ball, that might be better for him.
But as a manager like Stephen, how do you that was criminally bad, for a professional player?
Dreadful, absolutely dreadful. Everybody knows if you're given a man, you stay with him, you get touch tight with him. Nowadays you can't be grabbing hold of people or giving silly free kicks away, but people use that as an excuse. You can still touch somebody, you can still put your arm on them, you don't have to grab hold of them, you can still have physical contact with them. You should always know where they are, and so often you see players just get looking at the ball and they just loot the man, just drops off the shoulder, makes a run in front of them. Ball watching is criminal in the box when it comes to a corner or a set play. You have to know where your man is, and if you're going to watch the ball, at least have your arm out to be touching him and feeling where he is. I think, but from his point of view, and from Mourinho's point of view, Mourinho has had him now for 3 seasons, 2.5 seasons, and he knows what he does. He knows what his strengths are and their weaknesses are. And his weakness for him is marking in the box. I would not have him marking. You have him picking up the space, attacking the ball, and then that takes the pressure off him, and it allows him to be, just be a physical presence in there.
Goal at St James's Park, Newcastle against Brighton. Adam Drury.
Newcastle 0, Brighton 1, and Biram Kyle has opened up the scoring for the visitors. It came about from a corner. Shane Duffy headed it to the path of Jose Izquierdo, who unleashed a strike. It was goal-bound and it flicked off the boot of Biram Kyle. It was a deflection and it went into the back of Dubravka's net. It's Newcastle 0, Brighton 1.
Yeah, Chris Hughton will enjoy that, I'm sure, up at St James's Park. Also another goal at the Cardiff City Stadium. Game of the season, it turns out, between Cardiff and Fulham. Sam Fleet.
It's Cardiff City 2, Fulham 2, a lovely equaliser for Fulham. Mitrovic, a lovely touch to Sessegnon, who's scored in his last 4 games against Cardiff. Will make that 5 now. Into the bottom corner, it went past Etheridge. Fulham have offered very little, but they've scored twice. It's Cardiff 2, Fulham 2.
The latest scores in the Premier League, it is Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0, 2-2 between Cardiff and Fulham. Manchester City, through Sergio Aguero's goal, lead Burnley by 1-0. It's Newcastle 0, Brighton 1. West Ham and Spurs remain scoreless at the Olympic Stadium, and Watford 2-0 up away against Wolves. The late game is Huddersfield against Liverpool. Tomorrow we have full live commentary of Everton against Crystal Palace, 4 o'clock at Goodison Park. John Walters will be making his co-commentary debut on that one, so do tune in for that.
I think he'll be good.
Well, I'm going to be sitting beside him for the 2 hours, so I'm not going to say no.
Would you be one of these people? You need a steady hand.
One of the great commentators, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be one of them.
I'm a prima donna.
You think he needs a steady hand?
Do you know where I am tomorrow?
Do I want to ask?
It would arguably, historically, the biggest game in Europe this weekend. Historically, anyway.
Go on.
Milan derby.
What?
But if I were not at
from your holidays,
I know.
It's in Portugal all week.
If I were not at the Milan derby, I'd listen in to you and Johnny Walters, see how he gets on.
Is RAC, who's technically the home side?
I'm actually not sure. I've done no research.
Where'd you get your tickets? My dad's going over to AC Milan, Juventus, and he wants to get tickets, and he's on at me, and I'm just worried that I won't get them on the website. Where am I going to get them?
I have a contact.
Find out.
I have a contact in Italy that should be able to sort that out. He's not in the mob,
Johnny.
But he
the next best thing.
I knew
because they all are over there.
Your father is. He's exactly my type of football man. He's from like Ballyhaunis, is it?
Yes.
Ballyhaunis, and he's gone over to watch a game in Italy, and he loves the League of Ireland, and he's from like the west of Ireland. He's outward looking, yes, proud of what we have in Ireland. That's what we should be.
Here, listen, I couldn't put it better than that myself. He'll be delighted with that, Johnny.
Yeah. Just don't call me Micheál, because he's an impossible man to get off the phone.
Right, I'll pass that on for sure. So they're the latest scores in the Premier League. So when are you flying over to that, Johnny?
Tomorrow morning.
And you're just back from Portugal?
Yeah.
Did you go to Portugal by yourself?
No, there were 4 of us, so
how'd that go for you?
Lovely
you got a
break.
little bit of a tan.
Little bit. It was very warm a couple of the days. But
so you missed the 2 Ireland games?
I missed the game Monday.
You didn't even watch the first one.
Being honest, I wasn't going to watch it back because it just seemed so bad. I didn't want to put myself through it. So I feel a little bit unqualified to talk about it. I apologise for that.
I should mention Yarmolenko's gone off with a bad injury there in the West Ham game.
I thought he was faking it at first, but clearly not.
No, he went down unattended, so that's always a bad sign. It's sort of, I don't know, is it then the calf or Achilles or something? He's gone down.
He just found a bit of form actually before the international
gone down badly.
break.
Yeah, no one near him. He wasn't appealing. He's done some proper damage to himself, I think.
So still scoreless in that game between Spurs and West Ham, which is one of those fixtures because of the move to the new stadium has lost all its fight and fire and brilliance because it was one of the nastiest Premier League fixtures, West Ham against Spurs, whereas now it's just a nice all afternoon.
Sanitised
the
affair.
London Stadium and a bit of shopping beforehand in the shopping centre, I'm
3
sure.
3 o'clock Saturday, yeah.
So listen, if you feel you can do a better job than the likes of myself or Johnny or Dan, this is the opportunity you've been waiting for. We've teamed up with Vodafone X to fuel your passion for sport by giving you the chance to join the Off The Ball team for a full week. You'll get to see what happens behind the scenes of a show, attend a press conference, help report at a game, and even feature as a co-host of the show. If that wasn't enough, you receive an iPhone 8 with a year subscription to Vodafone X Sport, giving you access to 7 dedicated Sky Sports channels. If you want a chance to win, submit your demo tape and details to offtheball.com/Vodafone X. Of course, you sent in your own demo tape a little bit earlier in the week, Johnny, didn't you? Your report from the beach in Portugal. We have it now.
What? Sorry, what are you talking about? That's an unbelievable offer for an aspiring journalist. So
we're not paying them though.
That's fine. What I wouldn't
get used to it.
It's very similar to actually what it's like.
Yeah.
As 2 regular co-hosts, what would your advice be, Johnny?
In terms of journalism, I would try to win that prize. It's because it is journalism is not so much about ability, but getting your foot in the door. Would you agree?
It's the hardest part is getting the foot in the door. Then your ability
hard
will
work
find
and getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of bang average journalists out there, and I should.
Well, let's name some names, Johnny. That's for the next hour. Stephen Kelly's still on the line and going, "What is this nonsense?" Here, just before we leave United, then a couple of points. So Mourinho there talking about defending corner kicks, probably trying to confuse the pundits who are going to be analysing what Paul Pogba did wrong. Said that some of the players were engaged in zonal marking and some of the players were engaged in man-to-man marking. Is that normal?
Yeah, I think now you've seen a lot more of a change. Teams used to just do zone or man marking. I think they try to get a balance between both because a lot of players would have done different systems with different clubs, so to kind of keep a bit of an understanding of it. But I think it works. When I was at Fulham, we always did it, and basically you would have thought Breda Hangland 6'6" or something, and you think he'd have a marking, but we just had him in the centre of the box and go head the ball, and honestly, he used to work 9 times out of 10 because the ball would come in, he was free to attack it, everybody else was picking up and he'd clear it, and it does have its benefits. Obviously, if you have a really strong header of the ball, like for instance, Duffy or someone, if you're playing against Brighton and you're marking a Duffy, you would want someone that's just physically capable of being touch tight with him to stop him getting on the ball. But I think zonal and man marking does work. I think it's probably the way to go when it comes to that. And Man U should have just had Pogba in the zone instead of man marking now.
Mourinho is now going to face a week, I guess, of going through the team selection, a very attacking starting 11. And why doesn't he go with that every week? Why doesn't he go with Martial and Rashford in behind Lukaku, Juan Mata starting as well, a very creative team? I guess the only problem with that, Stephen, is that you look at Chelsea and there's probably not a more ideal opposition for United to play that formation because I think they push higher and press harder than any other team in the Premier League, even including Liverpool and Manchester City. Everybody goes right up the pitch and leaves a lot of space in behind.
They leave loads of space behind, and players like David Luiz, who often get caught drifting in the midfield, So it's, against Chelsea, it's an ideal scenario to put those 3 players up there, because you're automatically going to put a team in the back foot, because they're just going to think, right, pace behind, players that can run off us, players that can cause us problems, and they're not going to catch them. So, if you're a defender going into that game, you automatically will drop back to give yourself a yard or two. So that will, Mourinho's tactically, you think, I'm going to stop them from having the pressing game as much as they can. They're going to have to drop off a few yards to give us a bit more space at the back. So tactically, it was the right decision to go. And I think he's very much, he picks his horses for courses. He picks his teams based on who he's playing against. And it's, I think it'd be better probably just sticking with a team and being, Man U you always used to pick their 11 and you had to deal with them. So now they seem to be picking 11 to deal with other teams. If they just stuck with their team and said, let teams worry about us, they might be a bit more of a tough team to play against.
Goal for Spurs, Dan?
Yeah, Eric Lamela scored. It's Sissoko down the right, and it looks like Zabaleta has played him onside. The centre halves were trying to pick up Harry Kane, and he was in an offside position, but he drifted out, and Lamela ran through and steered home a header. So 1-0, 2 minutes till half time.
A couple of scores in the rugby. In Leinster's pool, it's Wasps 5, Bath 7. These games heading towards half time. And Toulon, who were beaten last week, heading for another defeat. They're 10-0 down away against Edinburgh. Munster, remember, won today by 36 points to 22. We'll bring you the score in the Connacht game in a couple of moments' time. But heading towards half time in the Premier League, it's Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0. 2-2 between Cardiff and Fulham. Manchester City still that Sergio Aguero goal to 0 up against Burnley. Brighton 1-0 up away against Newcastle, and now Spurs 1-0 up away against West Ham, and Wolves 2-0 down at home against Watford. Finished 2-2 between Chelsea and Manchester United earlier today. It is Sale 13, Connacht 13 in the European Challenge Cup. We'll take a quick break.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
Coming up this week, we hear how Gardaí are using smartphones to modernise the force. From identifying cars that shouldn't be on the road to keeping officers out within the community, we'll find out how it works. We'll also sit down with Sony to ask why we should care about their new devices and, of course, answer your tech questions.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
Thanks to Harvey Norman.
Download the podcast now or tune in Sunday at 6.
On News Talk.
Can you clean off the table there, Sarah? I mean, Emily, Connor, Jack, Emily, Sean, Sarah, the youngest one.
Forgetting your kids' names. It's easy to do. Sure, what's the worst that can happen? They'll finally believe you don't have any favourites. It's Sarah. But some forgetfulness can come with bigger consequences, like not remembering to pay your M50 toll. Avoid unnecessary fines, potential vehicle seizure, or a criminal record. Find the best way to pay now. Go to eflow.ie.
Taste adventure with Emirates Special Economy and Business Class Return Fares from Dublin. Feel the unmistakable buzz of Bangkok from €569 in economy. Smell the incredible street food in Phuket from €759. Or hear the surf crashing in Sydney from €1,149. Book by October 30th, 2018 at emirates.com/IE. Limited availability. Terms and conditions apply. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
Bruce Betting Sportsbook, Casino and now Live Casino. Download the Bruce Betting app to see why for the Premier League, Bruce Betting are giving you more. With price boosts, live in-play betting, cash out and ACCA insurance. Make Bruce Betting your Premier League bookmaker. Bruce Betting, in-store, online and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
If you are concerned about any symptoms that might suggest bowel or stomach problems, or you have a family history, talk to your GP about a direct referral to the internationally accredited endoscopy unit at the Bon Secours Hospital Dublin. And within 72 hours, you'll be in the expert hands of the most renowned specialists in this field. To find out more about the direct access endoscopy unit, visit bonsecours.ie/Dublin. Bon Secours, advanced medicine, exceptional care.
Are you an employer? From the 1st of January 2019, the PAYE system is changing to real time. These changes mean you will report pay and deduction details to Revenue every time you pay your employees. The change also means many employer forms you currently use, like the P45, will no longer be needed. To find out more information on the changes, visit revenue.ie. Make sure you are ready for the change.
Transform your cinematic experience with Sony. Selected Bravia models come with a 5-year guarantee. And for a limited time, a free HTC T290 Sony soundbar. For more information, go to paracity.ie or call in store today.
When you're a first-time buyer, it's first things first. So when finding a great low fixed rate is all that matters right now, Ulster Bank's new First 5 mortgage has you sorted. We've 5 great benefits, including the lowest 2-year fixed rate in the market. Just search Ulster Bank First 5. Ulster Bank. Help for what matters. Lowest rate claim source bonkers.ie, 29th of June 2018. Maximum loan to value is 90%. Security and insurance required. Product fees may apply. Over 18s and residential mortgages only. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Credit facility subject to repayment and financial status. Warning, your home is at risk if you do not keep up payments on a mortgage or any other loan secured on it. Warning, if you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Warning, you may have to pay charges if you pay off a fixed rate loan early. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Welcome back to Saturdays Off the Ball. As always, it's Nathan, Dan and Johnny with you through till 6 o'clock this evening. I'll be here anyways. The two lads will be here for another hour or so. We're going to be talking about Dundalk sealing the title and lifting the trophy last night. Dan was up at Oriel Park at that. Of course, Johnny doesn't think they're any good, so as always, Dundalk fans, 53106 is the text number. He's just been making the case why he doesn't think they're going to run away with it next season. We'll chat about that after 4. He's got a look on his face that suggests I'm misrepresenting him, but he can defend himself
Nothing new there.
a little bit later on. And we're live on all our social channels as well. The halftime whistles starting to go around the grounds in the Premier League. A couple of texts coming in as well to 53106. We'll chat Ireland as well because Stephen Kelly is on the line. Nations League was invented to provide more TV money to national associations. It'll mean more negative matches with fewer managers and players experimenting.
I'm not sure if I agree with that, really, to be honest.
Have we seen more negative matches?
No.
I don't think you get, like, I know there's sort of essentially friendlies. I don't think you get the last 20 minutes at the Aviva Stadium between Ireland and Wales on Tuesday night if that's a friendly.
The full-time, I mean, it's been commented on during the week, the full-time demeanour of the Irish players slumped on the pitch. Yeah. It was like...
Martin O'Neill was like, get up lads, get up, it doesn't matter.
It's been a great idea, really. I'd love to know
the final, you know.
I'd love to know a crowds comparison, if you could do it, to what normal friendlies.
Well, I don't know about crowds. I mean, you know, crowds is a different debate.
No, but across Europe, I'd say the crowds are quite good for these games, like.
Well, I think
because they're playing teams of similar ilk, like in games that aren't completely irrelevant, like friendlies are.
Any competition that can get Gibraltar to win a double header, that's definitely, there's a novelty value to that has to be embraced. But I don't know. I mean, at the top end, in terms of like League A, I mean, it is a bit more of a free shot for those teams who would expect to qualify anyway. I mean,
well, is it? Because that's what I wonder. So I always go back to the as they call it, the Home Nations tournament that was often put out there, and England never wanted to be a part of it because it was a lose-lose for them. If they end up losing to Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, the pressure on the managers massive. And actually, you look at Germany and Jogi Löw, you can say it's a nothing tournament. Suddenly now people are questioning whether he's the man to continue. And likewise for Gareth Southgate, suddenly he's had a couple of wins, he's tried something different. There's a bit of a buzz there around England again. So, and we see with Ireland, it clearly does matter.
No, it does. But maybe because Southgate's position is strong off the back of the World Cup, he was able to he had the credit in the bank to.
But does it not mean as well he's actually learned a lot more, that if these were friendlies,
I think
so he can actually look at that game against Spain and go, well, Spain tried their best.
Yeah, no, I think the thing with the Nations League, and it does come back to us a small bit, that I think for the teams at the top, it's pretty good because they get games against top nations, you know, and sometimes when they coast through qualifying groups, it can be a hard sell. For the teams that are at the bottom, I mean, they're getting the chance to win games, which is something that they never get. It's probably the teams in that middle rump where Ireland are, where there's a danger of it becoming a bit repetitive. And I can see.
Then you try to get out of the group.
I can see the initial point of there is a danger that things become a bit cagey in that where suddenly you've got something to lose in these games, and maybe it can affect it a small bit. But I think overall, if you're thinking of it in terms of 55 nations or whatever it is in UEFA, I think it's probably been a success. I would have thought, you know.
Dan, any chance of leaking Johnny's WhatsApp audio not for the podcast from Portugal during the week? The last Irish football controversy has passed. We need the next instalment. Well, I've listened to it.
Well, the problem
it's not
was
very
crap,
interesting. Well, that was the problem. I think so. You do a podcast during the week, and I think Johnny's intention was to add something, a little flavour, a little continental flavour from Portugal. It sounded like he was on the most boring holiday that anyone has ever been on. lying on the beach going, lads, I'm here, I'm in Portugal. Life is crap.
He was in a little chef off the side of a motorway in the UK somewhere.
I was looking at a swimming pool in the back of the villa in which we were staying, and I just didn't feel like investing too much emotionally in Irish football.
Okay.
It was 11 o'clock in the day or something like that, which I wasn't that long out of bed because I was on holidays, but there wasn't much controversy to the old WhatsApp.
If you don't want to play it,
Massive fan of the WhatsApp audio.
Stephen Ward is a much better storyteller
than Johnny is. Let's get some half times. Wolves against Watford. First up, bit of a shock on the cards at Molyneux. Clive Edwards.
Half time, it's Wolves 0, Watford 2. It was all going very comfortably and easily for both teams in midfield. Then suddenly, just before the halfway break in the first half, Watford scored 2 goals in just under a minute. The first one, a 25-yard drive by Capoue. The second one, just seconds later, by Pereira, broke down the left and fired it past the keeper. Left-footed, 2 excellent goals. And from that point on, Watford have looked confident. Half time, Wolves 0, Watford 2.
Stephen Kelly is on the line as well. Stephen, that would be quite an upset, which I guess is a real show of confidence in what we've seen of Wolves so far this season, that we expect them at home already to be winning these sort of games.
Yeah, they've come a long way, haven't they? The way they started the season, the brand of football they're playing, they've really kind of established themselves almost as a Premiership team. So to be having home games and already people expect them to win them comfortably, it's different. But yeah, the Watford have been up and down, started very well, but they've kind of dropped off of late. So then it's a bit of a shock to the system. But I think Wolves, they've done so well. I think it was inevitable at some point they're going to have a dodgy patch or a bit of a slip. I think that's just my opinion, because it is a transition to go from the Championship to the Premiership, and they're there for such a long time. I know they've had a big influx of players and some very talented players, but I think it's going to be a good test for them when they do lose a game or they do go on a little bit of a bad run, how they come back from that. So it's going to be interesting. But they're a team that have been playing very well, and we would have expected them to win today based on their current form.
Do you go along with the opinion that Wolves are the best promoted team we've ever seen?
At the end of the season, I'll tell you what I agree with that. It's so.
What did Newcastle do on Keegan? They were remember their first seasons, even when they were did they finish their first season back? They were really, really good. They were well up there.
Yeah, they're well up there. I think that they finished in. So I think the few teams have finished. Have teams finished in European position? I think
Newcastle's first season back, they were up there. What I recall.
I think Reading, when they got promoted the first season, would have been up there.
They were excellent that first season, because they had the points record the year before as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they had the points record, and I think they would have finished probably one or maybe a place outside of Europe. Trying to think of other teams that have done well, but I think it's so early. You're basing it on 8 games in. I think if you're going to give them that already, then it's silly. I think at the end of the season, if they've really shown they're an established Premiership team and they've performed really well and they've been able to stick with their brand of football all season, then you can give it to them. But now it's way too early.
Not to be crude, Nathan, as well, but they're probably, in terms of their budgets, I would imagine they're the best supported, and that's basically where we're at. I mean, roughly teams perform according to their budget, and statistics prove that it's not so much the manager really.
Yeah,
it's basically how much money you have.
They should be a top 10 team.
They've got Ruben Neves there, who's someone who probably could play for the top 4 or 5. I can't think of too many promoted teams over the years who've had a player like that, in their locker,
Both Nottingham Forest in 95 and Newcastle the year before finished 3rd in the Premier League. Straight up from promotion.
And the old
long time ago now.
Did Cloughie win the league after they got promoted first
well, there was a lot of that. When you look back into the 60s, 70s, there was a lot of coming straight up and either winning the title or contending for
He won
the
it with
title.
Derby, didn't he? Derby got promoted and he won the league.
Yeah.
Let's get a check-in then on Bournemouth against Southampton. That is at the Vitality Stadium in Alan Lewis.
Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0. A poor first half stop-start, lacking in quality in the final third. Both sides reduced to just half chances. Callum Wilson and David Brooks have gone close for the home side, the latter shooting wide when he probably should have done better. At the other end, Charlie Austin came close to a goal, latching onto a ball over the top. His touch just letting him down at the vital moment. Højbjerg has just warmed the hands of Begovic just before the half-time whistle. Both managers with stuff to work on at the break. It's Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0.
So Chelsea dropping a couple of points against Manchester United earlier. An opportunity for Manchester City to move clear at the top for a few hours at least. They're at home against Burnley. Peter Smith is at the Etihad.
City 1, Burnley 0, with Sergio Aguero maintaining his goal-a-game record against Burnley. The Argentine striker passed up 2 earlier chances before steering in emphatically from 7 yards after Sane and David Silva had prized open the Burnley defence. Silva came close to a second with a lofted effort. Mahrez hit the side netting from an angle. Stones got in the way of a Goodmanson effort, with the visitors having carried very little threat. City 1, Burnley 0.
Next, we are going to the London Stadium, West Ham against Spurs, and Guy Swindles.
West Ham 0, Spurs 1. Spurs grabbing the lead just before the break. Sissoko with a fine cross on the right, headed home by Lamela, who found himself unmarked about 6 yards out. West Ham would be disappointed. They were attacking at that stage. Noble, though, gave the ball away. Could have been worse for the Hammers as well. Sanchez's shot was brilliantly saved by Fabianski just before the half-time whistle went. Good game, West Ham 0, Spurs 1.
Incredibly tight at the top of the Premier League, just 2 points separating the top 5 heading into today's games, and Spurs right in the mix despite losing a couple of matches already. At the bottom end, talking of the newly promoted sides, not quite as much expected of Cardiff City and Fulham this season. They're meeting today in the Welsh capital, and watching this is Sam Fleet.
Half-time, Cardiff 2, Fulham 2. Cardiff dominated much of the first half, although the visitors did finish the game the stronger. It was Fulham who took the lead with a brilliant goal from 30 yards from Andre Schürrle. 2 goals in 4 minutes gave Cardiff a deserved lead, though. Murphy and then Reid finding the net. At that point, the Bluebirds were completely dominant, but with their second opportunity of the game, Fulham scored again. Mitrovic releasing Sessegnon, who finished into the bottom corner for his 5th goal against Cardiff in as many games. Good game here, half-time, Cardiff 2, Fulham 2.
At St James's Park, it's Newcastle against Brighton. Adam Drury.
Brighton lead Newcastle by a 1-0, but all the talk at half-time is about the injury to their forward Glenn Murray, who clashed heads in the air with Federico Fernandez. It looked nasty, and after lengthy treatment where he was seemingly unconscious, had to be stretchered off. Since that moment, the game had become sedate, but the breakthrough came in the 30th minute when Jose Izquierdo's edge-of-the-box strike deflected off Biram Kyle and careered into the Newcastle net. Half-time at St James's Park, it's Newcastle 0, Brighton 1.
So that's the half-time scores in the Premier League. We'll run you down through all the latest scores in the Championship and in all the rugby right after these.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Join the conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
Some bus routes in Dublin are now operated by Go Ahead Ireland on behalf of Transport for Ireland. So if you take the 45A, 59, 63 or 75, keep an eye out for the new look buses. On board it'll be business as usual with the same fares and TFI Leap Card, free travel pass, Dublin Bus Rambler, monthly and annual tax saver tickets all valid on these services. And what's more, some routes will have enhanced frequency. For more information and to view route timetables, visit transportforireland.ie.
Dad, can you help me with my homework?
Sure, son. Ask away.
Okay. Name me a famous revolutionary leader.
That's easy. That'd be Applegreen. You see, with Fuel Good, Applegreen were the first to deliver quality fuels that save you up to 4 cents a litre. 2 P's on Applegreen there, son.
Are you sure about this?
Positive, son. Savings of up to 4 cents a litre.
The revolution is Fuel Good from Applegreen, our most advanced fuel ever at no extra cost. Applegreen, low fuel prices, always.
In popular imagination, when we have an idea, a light bulb goes off. So what happens when Audi has an idea? They're even brighter. Until November 30th, Audi's offering complimentary bulb replacement, including xenon bulbs with every Audi expert service. At just €189, it also includes a year's roadside assistance and headlight focusing. See things in a new light. Book your Audi expert service today at audiservice.ie.
But I just think we need to go over it again, Ciara.
Ciara's up against her biggest challenge. Can I grab you for a sec? At 5 o'clock, boss? The goal here is to have a healthy dinner tonight, but he's a tricky obstacle, enjoys the sound of his own voice, and he's playing a blinder.
If you look at paragraph 5.
But Ciara's not fazed. She's going to race past him, and she's got the inside track straight to Green Isle cauliflower rice in the freezer aisle. A real crowd pleaser with 86% fewer calories than its white rice rival. Tastes great with a curry, and Ciara is onto a winner of a dinner tonight. Green Isle, get to the goodness.
Autumn, my favourite time of the year. Cosy nights by the fire, leaves falling on the ground and prices falling in the autumn sale. Yep, summer may be over, but the bargains are just beginning at appliancesdelivered.ie with up to 20% off washing machines, up to 25% off dishwashers and up to 30% off tumble dryers and cooking. And for those long nights in, binging on box sets and stuffing your face with chocolate, there's also up to 20% off TVs. The autumn sale ends soon at appliancesdelivered.ie.
October 26th is polling day. On that day, you will be asked to vote on a change to our constitution. The question is about whether or not we remove the wording that requires blasphemy to be a criminal offence. To get all the facts from a clear and independent source before you make up your mind, go to refcom.ie. Everything your vote means is explained there. Because on October 26th, your vote means everything. Brought to you by the Referendum Commission.
I'm Alex Dunn from Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. I have just returned from Yemen, where conflict has torn the country apart. It's also decimated the health system, leaving many in urgent need of care. MSF is treating the wounded and fighting disease on both sides of the front line. But we need your help. Please make an urgent donation today. Free phone 1-800-905-509. That's 1-800-905-509. Or visit msf.ie. Thank you.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
All right, you're very welcome back to Saturday's Off the Ball. Nathan, Dan and Johnny in studio. Stephen Kelly on the line. Second half is just getting underway in the Premier League. Manchester City 1-up against Burnley. Spurs 1-0 up away at West Ham. Brighton and Chris Hughton leading Newcastle by 1-0 at St James's Park. Wolves 2-0 down at home against Watford. It's 2-2 between Cardiff and Fulham, and it is scoreless in the match between Bournemouth and Southampton. Chelsea 2, Manchester United 2 in a dramatic game at Stamford Bridge was the early match. Liverpool is the 5:30 kickoff. We'll have team news from that very, very shortly as West Ham go also close down to equalising.
It's a fantastic save by Hugo Lloris. I think is Arnautovic with the header.
He's got to save that, hasn't he?
Actually,
probably look better.
It actually was a bit of a Hollywood save, to be fair. But it's still
give him some credit.
I was very frustrated, very briefly. I was at the Pats Rovers game on last week, and Brendan Clark pulled off this save that I thought was utterly unbelievable, and the highlights were on Monday night.
Nothing. You only get the goals, Johnny.
Goalkeeper's union.
But it was an unbelievable save. He was going away from the ball and he had a flailing hand, like just going completely away from it. I couldn't believe how he saved it. And then I was really looking forward to seeing it on the TV.
Well, we saw it live, so
I know, but
it was fine.
You know, then it was the other side of the ground the cameras were, and you want to see a different vantage point. See, it wasn't as good as it seemed at the time.
We're going to try and avoid spending the next hour talking about the Republic of Ireland because if you're into that sort of thing, we have about 6 hours of podcasts up on offtheball.com from earlier in the week with all sorts of expert opinion. But Stephen, we haven't spoken to you, so I do want to get your thoughts on playing Cyrus Christie in the middle of midfield.
It's got to be a bad decision. Listen, Cyrus offers very good athleticism and he gets up and down the pitch well. But to play a player in centre midfield that's probably never played there in his professional career is, when you have players sitting on the bench that play that week in, week out for the club, it seems ludicrous. You're expecting him to do something that it's not natural to him. He's, as a fullback, the game is so different in midfield. Everything is in front of you. You're in the right back position. Obviously, that was my position. You could see everything. When you get the ball, all you're doing is looking up. You have loads of options in front of you. As a midfielder, so often you get the ball and your back is to play. So you're trying to expect someone to, do something that he's so uncomfortable doing. It doesn't make sense why the manager would do that, but he has, and it's not paid off. And I can see why he tried to change the system and try and change things up a little bit, because we're screaming out for something to change. But to change it and then to put people into a position that they're not comfortable with and they're not at all suited to, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I guess we're screaming out for a system that gives Ireland an opportunity to create some chances to score goals, because it is a crisis point right now. If you're playing 2 matches at home and you're going with Cyrus Christie as a central midfielder. And I feel sorry for Cyrus Christie in that he actually was one of our better performers over the 2 games. He didn't really put a foot wrong in central midfield, but he didn't offer anything really in an attacking sense. He just kept things ticking over. Like, is that a clear statement from Martin O'Neill that where we're going is trying to set ourselves up as a very, very solid defensive side, but we're just accepting we're not going to score many goals?
But, you know, you can set yourself up as a defensive side without playing a fullback in midfield. Like, there's ways of doing that, and you don't have to. You still want to have someone in there that, when they do see a forward pass, or will get in a position to see a forward pass or be able to turn, they can pick it out or find it. It doesn't make sense why the manager, like, I can understand that he was talking about his athleticism and that they wanted to press high up the pitch, and it kind of worked against Wales for the first 10-15 minutes. We were high up the pitch and we pressurised them, but it's just, when you look at Irish football now, that sums it up basically, doesn't it? That sums up what is kind of wrong. We don't seem to have any creativity. We don't really know what we're doing, and we're asking players to do something that they're not comfortable with.
Stephen, what does that decision do for the morale of, say, Conor Hourihane or, you know, David Moyler, Alan Brown, those players, maybe even particular Hourihane and Brown, who were new this year, I guess, and got a run of games? I mean, he clearly is saying he doesn't fancy them there. Yeah, like if you have a player that's taken out his natural position to play in your position, it's the slap on the face, regardless of how you consider it. And if you're that midfielder that's not playing and you're having a fullback play in your position, you're kind of thinking, well, you know, the manager completely doesn't fancy me here. If he doesn't think that I'm better in my position than someone else is that doesn't play that position, then it's damning to what you think the manager thinks of you. So that's only going to be a negative effect on you going forward. You know, for the next. You know, will that make people question whether they should come into the squad? You know, there's different things that will go through people's mind, because playing for Ireland is such a privilege, and you should always turn up to play for your country. But that some people will have it in their head that, you know, well, if I'm not going to get picked, then if fullback's going to get picked ahead of me in central midfield, is there a point in me going? You don't want.
Not only that, sorry Nathan, but it's a pretty average fullback who's not even in the best of form at club level. No. You know what I mean? It's not like he's an outstanding
exactly.
player.
It's not like, it's different. If you put Seamus Coleman in there, and you say, you know what, Seamus Coleman's played right wing.
Give it a go.
He's played, and he's the captain of the team. He puts himself in this way. He's always looking for the ball. He will try things that he's probably not even comfortable with. But yeah, again, for Cyrus Christie, who is, you know, probably playing at Fulham defaultly because Fredericks would have played. Fredericks went to West Ham, and now he's not playing this weekend. You know, he played last weekend and struggled a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong, I think he has a lot of attributes, and he's good. He's a very good athlete. But he wouldn't be. I'm not sure he would be Fulham's first choice for the whole season.
Yeah.
At right back. So if you're not going to be deemed as being one of the best in your position, to be put into another position expected to do that, well, it's a tough ask for him. And I felt sorry for him being put in that situation, because it's, you know, it wouldn't be nice to have the whole country watching you and talking about it when it's something that you don't do.
So at one point from these 2 home matches, we're staring relegation in the face. We're going to be third seeds, more than likely, for the Euro 2020 qualifiers. Do we need a change in management, do you think, between now and next March?
Yeah, it's screaming out that you would think we need a change in management. That, okay, the talent pool we have at the moment is not what it used to be. Everybody knows it's a big transition in Irish football. There's, like, just look for today. If you count the games, how many players do we have starting in the Premiership? Probably 4 or 5 maybe out of all the games on today, and over the weekend it's probably 5 or 6. So that's a big change in what we were used to having in Irish football for the last 10-15 years. So that's difficult. It's just having a manager that can deal with that and either set us up to be a solid unit and get results, or someone that's going to go, you know what, I have a brand of football that I want us to play, and I'm going to implement it regardless of how it goes. And, you know, I'm not sure Martin and Roy are the ones that, you know, I don't know, they changed the system, how much tactically we've done. I've been in the squads with them, I've played under them, and, you know, we didn't do a lot of work on the training pitch when it comes to shape and that sort of stuff. And I think with the squad of players we have, players need to be drilled into them, what they want to do, how they want to play. So everybody goes out onto the pitch knowing their role.
Just on that, Stephen, sorry, I still can't get my head around that, and it's nothing to do with the fact that they're paid so much money, and how I suppose the notion that O'Neill's a very successful manager, which I suppose he is, and obviously Roy from his playing career, I cannot get my head around teams being named basically as you show up in the dressing room. Very little. Like from a professional perspective, was this replicated anywhere elsewhere in your career, bar at under 12 level or whatever?
I've actually played on a few managers that did name the team on the day of the game, but you would always have some indication really beforehand, like whether it be team shape on the Thursday or Friday. You know, one or two managers didn't, and I always thought it was strange. I don't know why you would do it, because as a player, knowing what you're going into or how you're going to set up, it's much better than going into the game off the cuff. You know, having some sort of preparation, and in your mind knowing that you're going to play, you can prepare better the night before. Everything is geared around that match, whereas not knowing, I think it doesn't benefit anybody, I don't think.
So you felt that on the few occasions where you were in a situation where you were only finding out an hour beforehand, it affected your performance?
Well, it didn't. I wouldn't affect my performance, but a lot of times it was in teams that were pretty much set, so you knew you were kind of going to play, even though the manager didn't name the team. You knew you were probably going to play because you played the previous weeks, and there was nothing was going to change because you'd won or you've had a good run of form. That was more like when the manager would name it beforehand. If the manager was changing something, you would tend to get a glimpse of that in the training week before, because if you're doing team shape or building up for the game, the manager would change players in positions, and so that. And you get a feel, think, oh, he's contemplating him there. They might not name the team the day before the day of the game, but there'll still be some sort of indication. But yeah, I think naming it, you know, just before kickoff, that doesn't make sense. And I think in this day and age, you have to prepare your players correctly and get them in the right frame of mind before they go on the pitch.
Yeah, Stephen, great stuff. We'll let you go. Thanks a lot for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks very much, Dad.
Stephen Kelly there on the line. Now we'll be talking to Stephen again over the coming weeks. There's been another goal at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City against Burnley. Peter Smith.
City 2, Burnley 0. Everybody stopped in the Burnley defence when Cork challenged Son. Appeals for a penalty. Silva played onto the whistle. David Silva pulling it back to Bernardo Silva, who blasted into an empty net from 10 yards out. City 2, Burnley 0.
So just to let you know, over the next hour or so, we're going to be referring to betting odds and gambling. If you are affected by this type of content, or it's not really your thing, you can join us again at 5 o'clock. Remember, do gamble sensibly. For more, check out gambleaware.ie or visit dunlewy.net. So the latest scores in the Premier League: Manchester City 2-0 up against Burnley, and they, for now, are going to be 2 points clear at the top, awaiting Liverpool's game against Huddersfield at 5:30 at the John Smith Stadium. It's scoreless between Bournemouth and Southampton. Still 2-2 between Cardiff and Fulham. Brighton 1-0 up away at Newcastle. Spurs 1-0 up away at West Ham, and Watford still leading 2-0 away against Wolves. So Johnny, I know you were away and you didn't really want to put yourself through the agony of having to watch these games, but having had time to think about it with Martin O'Neill, like, does it feel
No, it's
like, it doesn't feel like it's the end game, Dan. Having analysed it for the last 2 or 3 days, I wasn't quite sure on the full-time whistle, because I definitely felt ahead of these two games that unless they got 2 points, they were a goner. But for whatever reason, and maybe it is the fact, there's even a story in the Irish Daily Mail today that John Delaney's going to sign a new 6-year contract to take him to 2026 as CEO of the FAI, that there's a feeling that at the very top of the FAI, there's no sense that they actually want to change anything or can afford to change anything.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's the cost aspect is still massive, and I wondered like what would happen, and you did think it would have to have been 2 games sort of comparable with the previous 2 matches, which were the 5-1 and the 4-1. And that didn't really come to pass. I mean, maybe
so they survive unless we're humiliated.
Yeah, like that does sound like what I'm saying, really. See, you think about it now, and I just think that once we get to March, like once they start the campaign there in March, well, then they're there, and you need this mood to lift somehow. You need to find some kind of positivity, which is hard to muster up if the games are still hard to watch and things seem a bit shapeless. But, there is an element of the greater good with that if this is the team that stays, then you need something to happen in the next month, in the 2 games next month to give us some belief and purpose. And
well, there's nothing that can happen in the Northern Ireland game that's going to matter.
Well, I don't think so, no. But I mean, at this stage,
short of Michael O'Neill changing dugout.
Sorry, short of flipping it, that actually Northern Ireland were to win that game by a couple of goals.
Well, this is it. You need something to happen to you can't have a situation where you're starting a qualifying campaign in March, and we're going somewhere, we're playing a big game in Dublin, and the mood that exists now is the mood that's in the air. It's going to be such a horribly grim way to kick off a campaign. I mean, we've had campaigns turn sour midway through. Like even with Trapp in the third campaign, there was a campaign too far. I don't think that mood was really hugely there at the start of it. It was only when they lost to Germany, that it went. So to have that view at the start of it would be so damaging potentially. In terms of the FAI, nothing's ever going to change there. But
but it's so defeatist to say that. Like, and Dan put up a photo of Happy Birthday John from Monday night, where it was John Delaney's 51st birthday. It was on a balloon, and the only thing missing was an exclamation mark at the end of it, which would have been the ultimate kind of irony of the situation, because Monday night was so bleak. But what I object to is that, and Dan put up another tweet, Stephen Kenny's programme notes from Dundalk last night. People look at us in Europe now, and people look at these Irish games, and I because I'm Irish now, people think of me as being from a country that is not able to play football, and we're basically a bunch of agricultural boggers who all we can do is defend and hope for the best and show a bit of passion and a bit of patriotism and all this rubbish. Like, that's what really annoys me, because I don't see that at underage level, even at League of Ireland level. I see lads who want to pass the ball, or obviously Tom Mohan's under 17s have been doing 19s rather, have been doing very well, and I don't want to be associated with the guff that we have at international level.
When did we last pass
you
the
were
ball?
in Tala last night. I was watching the Dundalk game. You saw good football games at league level. We don't need to play like that. Even under Mick McCarthy, we had a reasonable brand of football. And I'd love if our options for the international manager are fairly limited. But I certainly wouldn't object to Mick getting the job again, because at least he'd restore a nice brand of football to an extent. We'd be fairly together as a unit. I'm just looking. We've a manager now who doesn't seem to be bringing anything whatsoever to the table. I can't see one positive thing that O'Neill and Keane are bringing to the table. Preparation seems to be non-existent. He's constantly talking down the players, often in response to a question about his own ability. And, even the morale in the squad doesn't seem to be good. And he's bringing nobody through from underage. I can't see anything positive. And because the FAI are effectively bankrupt because of the Aviva Stadium, and they're run in a kind of a manner that's more of a kind of an autocratic regime, nothing's going to change.
They will deny the bankruptcy as a point. I mean, they're certainly not bankrupt, but they're...
Can they afford to sack them?
Well,
we don't know.
That's a slightly different debate.
And there's also, I guess, a debate of can they afford not to sack them, considering what's at stake for qualifying for Euro 2020.
Yeah, I think things financially are in such a way that the big expense taken upon by doing that change is a problem. There's no disputing that's a problem. I mean, there was a situation with Trapattoni as well, where they were ready to sort of pull the plug, and then he ended up staying for another year.
But how much the problem if we don't get to 2020, right, with all that entails?
It's a massive problem.
How much of a problem is that financially relative to, for argument's sake, pulling the plug on these two guys now and taking the hit?
But that's the gamble. I mean, I think 2020 qualification is maybe 12 million it was for the last Euros. Certainly, it's worth more.
And then a huge amount of prize money.
And exactly, it's worth more than the World Cup, bizarrely. And then being a host, you'll have your sponsorship deals and your kit deals. There'll be bonuses kicked in and stuff. So it becomes an equation. Like all these things, it's what
are the odds?
Yeah, can you spend sort of a couple of million quid will it reap this reward at the end? And that is pretty much the sum that you have to do. And I think, to be fair, I think if it was an association that was flush with cash, then it's an easier decision. I think in their situation at the moment, there's no doubt it's a real conundrum.
Leon Blanche from our sponsors Boyle Sports is on the line. Leon, you look at Martin O'Neill then and the possibility of him staying and going. The past week, the results, have they affected the odds on his future?
Yeah, look, it's been dismal, Nathan, as an Irish fan. It's been horrific to watch. He's gone from 5-1 into 5-2, and not to be in charge for the first qualifier, which will be obviously next March. He's favoured actually still to be in charge in terms of the start of Euro 2020. Should we obviously get there, he's 2-1 on, and he's 6-4. Not to be in charge. And just hearing what the two guys have said, I think the financial aspect of the deal, that's the big question. And it is a gamble. Do the FAI decide these two guys are worth getting rid of and the whole backroom team for roughly €3 million? And then do we start afresh and get somebody in to try and qualify us for 2020. And the market in terms of who would be the next Republic of Ireland manager, Mick McCarthy at the moment, he's the clear front runner at 3-1. You've got the likes of Stephen Kenny and Chris Hughton. I think the job might be a little bit soon for Chris because he's doing a great job at Brighton. But they're both 14-1. But there's not that many other managers that have been even linked to the post. And I think if you look at it, who would want the job? I'm sure McCarthy would want it. I'm sure if you offered it to Stephen Kenny, he'd snap your hand off. He's done a remarkable job with Dundalk. And the brand of football, as Johnny was saying, the brand of football that Dundalk play is very easy on the eye. There's no reason why our players can't get the ball down and play football. It's a lack of coaching. It's a lack of structure. The team just doesn't have an identity. And from the crest of a wave when we were at the Euros in France to where we are now, Nathan, it's a million miles away, and it seems to be getting worse. And that's a huge problem. There doesn't seem to be any improvement from camp to camp. I mean, it was dreadful against Denmark, and it was pretty abysmal against a second-rate Welsh team. You must remember who was missing for Wales: Bale, Ramsey, and Ampadu. 3 stars from when they absolutely hammered us in Cardiff 4-1. So I'm worried as an Irish fan. I don't know where we're going with the current setup.
Well, Martin O'Neill was quite bullish after the game against Wales in both his ability and the team's ability to go and qualify for Euro 2020. Looking at the odds for Ireland to qualify now, considering that the Nations League is essentially a write-off, but the actual qualifiers proper have yet to start, where do Ireland stand?
Yeah, look, I think, Nathan, we have to obviously wait and see what the draw will give us in December. I think listening to what Martin was saying, I suppose when we got to the playoff for the World Cup, we were actually 4th seed in that qualifying group, behind Serbia, behind Austria and behind Wales. Now, that draw was very kind to us in terms of you probably couldn't have picked 3 countries better to be seated in front of you to try and get to a World Cup. But we're in the 3rd pot. We don't have any odds yet to see what price will be to qualify for Euro 2020 because we'll have to just wait and see who we draw. But I don't know, Nathan, if the players have any faith in the management. And I think when you look at the body language, yes, we gave a bit of an effort when we were 1-0 down. That's the least you can expect. I just don't see any belief coming from the Irish squad in terms of the lack of direction from both the assistant manager and, of course, the main man, Martin O'Neill. He's confident in his own ability. You've got to give him that. They were on a tremendous run before this abysmal run. But what is it now? I think it's 1 victory in 10 or 11 games. So definitely I would say the clock is ticking, and maybe it's a gamble worth taking. Take the hit right now to try and secure qualification when, of course, we would have the opportunity to play Euro 2020, some of our games in Dublin.
For more information, see offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. Remember, gamble sensibly. Check out gambleaware.ie or dunlewy.net. There's been another goal at the Etihad Stadium for Manchester City against Burnley. Peter Smith.
City 3, Burnley 0. 2 goals in 2 minutes. Fernandinho with City's 3rd, an emphatic finish from just inside the box after Lowton had only partially cleared a Sane corner. City 3, Burnley 0.
Let's go to the Olympic Stadium where it's West Ham against Spurs. Guy Swindles.
West Ham 0, Spurs 1, but only Hugo Lloris knows how it isn't 1-1. It was a brilliant cross by Cresswell from the left, an even better header from Arnautovic. It seemed destined from the top left-hand corner, but somehow Lloris sprung to his left, stuck out a hand and somehow got the ball over the bar. After that, Spurs went down the other end. Brilliant run by Lucas Moura. Pass to Lamela, who looks as if he had a straightforward shot. Instead he tried to pass. Shouldn't have done. West Ham 0, Spurs 1.
So as it stands, Spurs will go level on points with Chelsea on 21 points after 9 games. Manchester City out in front on 23 points. Liverpool on 20. They take on Huddersfield in just over an hour. We should have team news on that very shortly. Elsewhere, it's Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0. It is still Cardiff 2, Fulham 2. As I said, City 3-0 up against Burnley. Brighton 1-0 up against Newcastle. Newcastle, who as it stands, will be bottom of the Premier League table tonight. It is Watford 2, Wolves 0 at Molineux. As I said, 2-2 between Chelsea Chelsea, Manchester United earlier. In the Championship, Darragh Lenihan scored the winners. Blackburn beat Leeds 2-1 in the early game. Still Aston Villa leading Swansea by a very early Tammy Abraham goal to 0. It's scoreless between Brentford and Bristol City, and in the game between Hull and Preston, Shonny Maguire back starting for Preston today, but
yeah,
Callum Robinson.
This is what you'd give, you take away or something. You're looking for positives, and we didn't have a huge amount. But I thought Maguire even was bright when he came on Tuesday. There's an argument when you look at his form last season that we can start to talk about Maguire as our best striker. Going forward, I think he's. You speak to people who watch Preston regularly, and they speak about how much they've missed him. Albeit they've been scoring goals, but his overall presence, that is something. There is something to work with there with Maguire, and he probably should have been around the squad for longer than he has been. That's a different debate.
Queen's Park Rangers 2-0 up away against Ipswich. It's 1-1 between Forest and Norwich. Reading 2-1 up at home against Millwall. Rotherham 1, Bolton 0. No goals between Stoke and Birmingham or in the game between Wigan and West Brom. Derby against Sheffield United is the late game, and in the Scottish Premiership it's now Celtic 2, Hibernian 1, Hearts 2-1 up against Aberdeen. Livingston leading Dundee by 2-0. No goals between Motherwell and St Johnstone, and Kilmarnock are 2-1 up away at St Mirren. The last 20 minutes of the game, did you think Martin O'Neill did the right thing by going all out, playing Hogan, Maguire up front?
It probably wasn't hugely structured, and I think again the argument's been made that was it something that had been worked on? Definitely not. But I do think to give him, not to just totally pile on, I guess he didn't sort of try and hold on to a sort of a tight 1-0 situation and try and nick something. He did sort of go for it and try and gamble. But again,
Stephen Hunt was saying he felt that actually, say at the end, was it Georgie Thomas who had that very late chance? Stephen Hunt felt that if that had gone in, there's a very good chance O'Neill would have been sacked.
No,
because the boos would have been so strong that it would have been impossible for the FAI to ignore.
I'm not sure if I totally agree with that analysis now completely. But I guess there was parallels with Denmark which you need to avoid, in terms of being that open.
Well, that's the point I was making to John Giles, that actually there's a pattern here of when we were only 1-0 down and it was complete and utter panic, like against Denmark when we're 2-1 down at half-time, and he just completely throws everything we've done for previous months out and just goes for a completely new formation, completely new system in the hope that somehow something clicks. Now, you might argue that actually it's quite similar to what happens before the game starts, but there was no, surely, as Giles would say, the great teams when they're trying to get back, and listen, we're clearly not a great team, you have your structure, you keep trying to do the right thing for as long as possible, rather than just, well, let's add an element of chaos to the game and hope it works in our favour.
Yeah, there is a bit of a change. I mean, there's sort of almost an attempt to say now that everything Martin O'Neill did in his first campaign was lucky, or that he didn't do anything right. I actually thought one of the things that he was half decent at was in terms of actually his substitutions within games. The late goals that Ireland got. Think back to sort of Gelsenkirchen and a few other games where generally you think that was the game where McGeady was started. And again, there was clearly no prep work done really with that. But then within the game they would make changes and they'd sort of solve problems and they'd finish games reasonably okay. Whereas now it is a bit more chaotic. You
won't get anything grimmer than what Dan said there. Dan is basically giving the manager credit for going a little bit gung-ho while 1-0 down at home to a Wales team that's basically bereft of its best players, and that is how bad things are. And like,
it's not credit.
I don't want to go back to League of Ireland or whatever. But when Dundalk played in Europe in 2016, they go behind in games against vastly superior opposition, but somehow they just keep it together and stay true to the principles of how they played. We have none of that because we don't have principles in the first place. And I just think what does he doesn't seem to have any handle on the situation at the moment.
The weird thing is he probably has more trust, it seems, in his players than any of us do. That he
wouldn't know it from
but I think he trusts his players to actually go out and perform to the best of their ability.
Well, probably in certain players, which is another issue.
Yeah.
There's a trust in certain players that
Who are the players that you look at that he most definitely trusts?
McLean.
Well, he trusts McLean. He trusts Cyrus, obviously. He trusts Cyrus with anything.
I would love to know, and well, being this current Irish squad, we probably will find out in some way, shape or form, what is going through David Myler's head. who was...
Myler hasn't kicked the ball for Reading in the last month. I don't think Myler had a case to be involved at all, actually. I think Williams was the one that was hard done by. I mean, Myler's on the bench again for Reading today.
Really, considering what Myler had done for Ireland, his performance over in Cardiff?
No, I don't think he's played enough. I can see the argument, and he was there. I was surprised he was there. I mean, unless there's some other issue at Reading that we don't know about. But I don't think he's played in the last 4 weeks. So he wasn't one that sort of sprung to mind as an obvious sort of hard done by case. I think Williams probably more so, because he played him in Poland and you think, okay, he's going to try something here, and he's abandoned it. Conor Hourihane as well would be another one who, I mean, he's certainly match fit anyway, albeit he's on the bench with Villa for Villa today. He's been in and out of the side, but clearly has no trust in him at all.
Well, how does he go from being good enough to start away in Cardiff to not?
But he's clearly been damaged by starting away in Cardiff. That's. I mean, maybe
the lack of understanding with Hendrick.
He is a victim of that game, and it's been mentioned on a number of occasions about the sort of inconsistent pressing and so on. So maybe he's just decided, well, actually, maybe he's not going to be the man for me, and that's it. But yeah, I mean, ironically enough, though, I'm contradicting myself. I think Myler probably is one of the players that he does trust. I just think maybe his lack of football probably counted against him, because Myler, in that role, you need energy, and someone who hasn't been playing, you'd have to be concerned about that.
Sale 27, Connacht 13, the latest score in the Challenge Cup. There's about 15-20 minutes left in that. Another goal at the Cardiff City Stadium between Cardiff and Fulham. Sam Fleet.
It's Cardiff City 3, Fulham 2. The Bluebirds deserved their lead, and it was the third goal was scored from Callum Patterson, his first goal of the season. It was a cross on the right-hand side from Manga, touched on by Bobby Reid, and then Patterson did well to steer it into the bottom corner. It's Cardiff 3, Fulham 2.
Would be Cardiff's first win of the season. If they were to hang on, they'd actually move above Fulham in the table as well. Sale have just scored another try in that match. So Sale looks set to beat Connacht in the European Challenge Cup. A text in from Dara in Dublin, 53106 is the text number. Lads, this is like a broken record from you guys at this stage. Did any of you ever play any sport at any level, or have you always just been sensational journals?
That's like,
I think we've just always been sensational journals.
Is it fair for me to ask?
We're lucky to have Keenan O'Neill. They're not a problem.
Is it fair for me to ask, when international football is basically based on a small number of games where you have to be well structured and know the opposition, which is exactly what Michael O'Neill does in Northern Ireland, is it fair for me to question a manager who sends out a player in midfield who hasn't played in that position since he was 14? In fairness, like, what is he bringing to the table?
Time for a break.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya.
Freddie's right. Can you go a bit higher, Ivan?
If I go any higher, only dogs will hear me.
Try.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya.
Here, come on. How many more Galileos do you want?
Calm down, Ivan.
There's only room in this band for one hysterical queen.
Next Wednesday on The Hard Shoulder, to mark the release of Bohemian Rhapsody in cinemas, Henry McKean is on the hunt for Ireland's biggest Queen fan.
So if you think you could be champion, break free and email me now on henry@newstalk.com.
The Hard Shoulder with Ivan Yates.
With Nissan.
Weekdays from 4 on Newstalk.
Who is Galileo anyway?
This is my favourite time of year. Not because of the autumnal colours. It's because I can spend a whole afternoon with the girls in Kildare Village, seeing what our favourite designers have been up to, treating ourselves to a long lunch, saving up to 60%. It's got nothing to do with the hundreds of new arrivals at Kildare Village. Promise. Take exit 13 off the M7 for your style, your way at Kildare Village, where there's something extraordinary every day.
Buying a house shouldn't be all about red tape. It should be about rolling out the red carpet. My Sherry Fits is an online platform that allows you to make offers, see other offers, contact your agent and book viewings. All online, anytime you like. It's an entirely new way to buy a home, built on everything we've always believed in. Find out more at mysherryfits.ie. Sherry Fitzgerald. It's not just about property, it's about people.
Ever wondered where standards come from? If you're involved in innovation, you probably have. And the simple answer is, they're developed by people like you. NSAI is the National Standards Authority of Ireland. When we're developing a new standard or updating an existing one, your expertise is invaluable. So you can help influence the direction of your industry and be among the first to hear about new developments. If you'd like to participate, visit nsai.ie today or call 01 807 3800. That's 01 807 3800.
Bruce Betting Sportsbook, Casino and now Live Casino. Download the Bruce Betting app to see why for the Premier League, Bruce Betting are giving you more. With price boosts, live in-play betting, cash out and ACCA insurance. Make Bruce Betting your Premier League bookmaker. Bruce Betting, in-store, online and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
This week at Expert Electrical, when you purchase a Dyson V8 Animal or a Dyson V7 Motorhead, we'll give you a complete home cleaning accessory kit. Don't miss out, only while stocks last. With 67 stores nationwide, there's a local expert near you. Find yours at experts.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Here's another safer motoring suggestion from AXA Insurance.
A smooth-running engine is a happy engine. That's why you should pull out the dipstick and check your oil levels every couple of months. A well-lubricated system ensures a long life for your engine and less mechanical troubles for you.
O is for October, and for optimists. Those people who always believe there's something amazing around the corner, like Carphone Warehouse with its exclusive October deals. Get the Samsung S8 free, or the Samsung S9 for €99.99, both on a €40 a month plan. All when you switch to Vodafone, Ireland's #1 network, but only with Carphone Warehouse. Save on the Samsung that suits you with expert advice from Carphone Warehouse, the home of the networks. Any network, any phone, any plan. Only Carphone Warehouse. T's and C's apply. Offer subject to a 24-month contract.
We're here with Donal, who bought us the island, and it is now bringing us a special raffle. What are the prizes like?
Sure, they're grand.
How grand?
Just 100 grand. For 10 of you.
Play Euro Millions this Friday, where 10 winners of the Ireland Only raffle will also win a share in €1 million. That's €100,000 each, guaranteed. Play responsibly via the app, in-store or at lottery.ie. Share the dream.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
You're welcome back to Saturday's Off the Ball. No shortage of goals in the Premier League. Manchester City 3-0 up against Burnley and cruising in that game with about 10 minutes remaining. Cardiff set for their first win of the season. They're 3-2 up against Fulham. No goals between Bournemouth and Southampton. It's Brighton 1, Newcastle 0 at St James's Park. Pressure may start to mount, you think, on Rafa Benitez now with Newcastle bottom of the Premier League table. Spurs still 1-0 up away at West Ham. That's the game we're watching in the studio, but West Ham really throwing everything at Spurs over the last 15-20 minutes. And still at Molineux, it's Wolves 0, Watford 2. Huddersfield Liverpool is the late game at 5:30. We will check in on that shortly, but 3 changes for Liverpool. Shaqiri, Lallana and Sturridge come into the side in place of Mane, Wijnaldum and Firmino. Leon Blanche from our sponsors Boyle Sports is still on the line. Earlier today then, Leon, it finished Chelsea 2, Manchester United 2. Quite a game. Jose Mourinho is going to be I'd imagine he's going to be the picture on all the back pages tomorrow for his little scuffle post-game. But results-wise, it feels as though he's battled through the storm. They turned it around against Newcastle and put in a really creditable performance today and really should have beaten Chelsea. Has that changed his odds as the next manager likely to go?
Yeah, I think so. If you looked at it like 2 weeks ago, when they were losing 2-0 at home against Newcastle, should have been a penalty for Ashley Young handling the ball. It wasn't given, and they've come back and won 3-2. And today, they nearly came from behind again and beat Chelsea, who, of course, are still unbeaten in this year's Premier League. So he's been pushed out now to 7-2 from 4-6 to be the next manager to leave. Obviously, the after-game antics, Mourinho loves that. He loves all that touchline nonsense. He doesn't mind being in the papers tomorrow. He's already started the campaign that everybody is against him. He will have loved that one of the Chelsea coaching staff went up to him and celebrated in front of him. That just adds to his own defence, saying that it's me against the rest of the world. Jose loves it. He's an actor. He can certainly play his role, but he's 7-2 now to be the next manager to leave their post in the Premier League. So
tight at the top of the Premier League. 2 points separating the top 5 at the start of today, and that was City, Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool, Arsenal. United probably going to end today 9 points behind Manchester City at the top. Chelsea just a couple of points behind City. When you look at the odds for potentially winning the league or even qualifying for the Champions League places, has today's result had any effect?
Yeah, Chelsea have been pushed out a little bit, Nathan. They were 8-1 before the lunchtime kickoff, and they've now been pushed out to 10-1 in terms of winning the Premier League. I think it's been a very good start by Sarri and his team. They're still unbeaten, but they've drawn 2 home games, I suppose, against their title challengers, Liverpool and United. But they still remain unbeaten, and they've drifted ever so slightly to finish in the top 4. They were 1-5 before today. They're now 1-4. So I still think Chelsea, the way they're playing, the bench made a big difference today. Ross Barkley coming off it and scoring the equaliser. I think they'll finish in the top 4. As for Manchester United, they remain 7 points behind Chelsea. So they've been clipped ever so slightly to finish in the top 4. They're now 9-4 from 5-2. And to win the Premier League, which I don't believe they can do so, but they're 66-1 from 80-1. But if you're a Manchester United fan, the last 2 league games will give you a little bit of encouragement. They still look very weak at centre half. David Luiz had a couple of headers that I thought he should have scored. They were very poor to concede their first goal from the corner kick when Rudiger put Chelsea in front. And it's clear Mourinho is not happy with his centre half. But it's a little bit of improvement. Big game, however, coming up, Nathan, in the Champions League against Juventus.
For more information, see offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. Remember, gamble sensibly. Check out dunlewy.net. So we're into what? The last 5 minutes of this game. West Ham just had the ball in the back of the net, disallowed for offside against Javier Hernandez.
Yeah, I think, was it Arnautovic in the build-up? Maybe it was offside. But either way, it was an off. It was a pretty slick move that was chalked off. So yeah, they've put on a bit of pressure. West Ham have sort of mixed things up. Declan Rice has stayed on the pitch. He's still, indispensable as sort of their holding midfielder. It's funny, you were talking with, and we're not going into this debate again.
No, let's.
You were talking with Stephen Kelly earlier about, or he said, how many Irish players are playing today? I'm like, do we count Declan Rice in this now yet, or is he in sort
he's
of?
Still Irish.
His international forms still suggest he's an Irish international.
Well, it's big though when he can represent like 20 to 25% of that sort of figure, depending on what way you want to go with it. So, it's. I mean, albeit as you mentioned earlier, big though when he can represent like 20 to 25% of that sort of figure, depending on what way you want to go with it. So, it's. I mean, albeit as you mentioned earlier, maybe not as sparky as a game as it might have been in Upton Park or the Bowling Ground or whatever you want to call it. But West Ham are putting on some pressure in the end.
Yet another goal at the Etihad Stadium between Manchester City and Burnley. Peter Smith.
City 4, Burnley 0. An absolute stunner from Riyad Mahrez, who took receipt of the ball just outside the penalty area before curling in an absolutely wonderful left-footed shot. City 4, Burnley 0.
Would you make it as a coach? You're just a bit too mad, are you?
It's going to be something of a revolution, I think. McElhinney and the ex-Liga Rovers, I forget his name, Cove Rambers, or Drogheda, or Athlone, or Longford.
You came on this show, Johnny, and said that Galway United were heading to the Champions League.
I didn't quite say that.
No. Play the clip.
It's my first time hearing that thing, Johnny. It's very appropriate. There's some common sense and there's a lot of nonsense, but these are your 2 or 3 minutes to tell us about all the good stuff we should be talking about in the League of Ireland. What's the main story that's caught your attention this week?
Yeah, it wasn't particularly well prepped, I think, for this one. But no, the Galway United story is a big positive, I think. In that little montage there, I spoke about Galway United going to the Champions League, and
do you accept that now is not going to happen?
Even in the annals of League of Ireland being the greatest league in the world and all that, what's happened with Galway United this season has kind of trumped everything, I think. They were in talks with a Saudi consortium to take over, and everything seemed kosher, which is not a good word to use when it comes to the Saudis, but in any event, everything seemed kosher, and then the Saudis seemingly just literally disappeared. Now, in light of what's happened in terms of the Saudi government in the last couple of weeks, I don't think any of us wants to be associated with Saudi Arabia at the moment. Galway hurling.
Sorry, that is the Craziest 1 minute of radio that has ever happened on Off the Ball.
It's an amazing segue there.
There's segue to segue to segue.
Let me continue.
I will. I just had to acknowledge that.
Palmer brothers, who tried to take over Aston Villa actually in the past.
They deny that story.
I believe it to be true. And anyway, they've obviously a big racing interest, but they're likely going to take over, according to report in the Connacht Tribune, they're likely going to take over the old, what was designated as being a ground for the Galway GA board.
Centre of Excellence in Athenry, Mountain South, which the GA took a hit of a few bob on.
So this is just off the motorway?
Yeah, I think it's like 10, 15 minutes from the city, but
103 acres.
Yeah, interestingly enough, like my local, we were talking about recently to my local club, JP McManus, the money he gave to the county boards and all that.
Oh, yeah.
The clubs in Galway are basically, they contribute money, they're kind of levied money to basically pay for the amount of money that was lost in that. All the clubs are putting in money to kind of cover that up. But this is massive for Galway United, because Galway United, it was funny watching the Dock game last night. You were thinking as a Derry City fan, there was one move where Jarvis, Duffy and McElhenney had a little
Derry
bit,
lads,
and you were like, oh my God. And Derry meanwhile were getting hockeyed by Cork, and you're like, what could we be like? It's kind of the same in Galway. We've so much talent that isn't playing for Galway United, and we've nowhere to train, and we don't own the ground. But this could be a massive move, and I have to give huge credit to the Comer brothers. They're self-made millionaires and all that, they could do whatever they want with the money, but they're putting money into Galway sport, and I really do hope that, I think there's a suggestion that the Comer brothers took a bit of umbrage that the Saudis were coming in. Like, why couldn't that have been us? Because we have the means to do this.
And have been backing the club for the last few years.
They've been keeping it afloat with really, really good, significant sponsorship. And this is a place now where Galway players can train, and it is going to become like a kind of almost like an academy type thing as well. And it's just great news.
It has to happen, though. I mean, I
well, the Saudi thing didn't happen.
There's a few things going on this week with Finn Harp Stadium and the Daily Mail thing, which is great, but it's been pushed back by a year. So things always don't happen as quickly as we want them to happen here, but hopefully.
Like the plans are for 6 pitches, there'll be all-weather pitches, there'll be a gym, a sports hall, dressing rooms, car parks, a full proper setup. And at least this is something that will have a long-lasting effect, that it's not, as you say, Saudi millionaires or billionaires coming in saying we're going to get you to the Champions League. This is actually something that, if it does happen, that in 20 years will have a long-lasting beneficial effect. And also there will be, I think there will be accommodation put there as well. So like they're probably looking at it from a slightly altruistic sense and also a slightly business sense. But just the Finn Harp thing as well. I don't know if this was discussed at all, Dan, but how does it take 6 million quid to build a stadium that's 5,000 strong? I just cannot get my head around that in Ireland. How does it cost 6 million to build a stadium?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
it just seems an insane amount of money.
It doesn't really to me.
6 million?
No, the stadium behind the goals in Tala, you're talking like a 7-figure sum for that, and that's like whatever 2,000 seats.
Stand.
No, that's the way it is, John. I mean, the Daily Mail project, okay, and Daily Mail's in an urban area, and there's complications with that, but you're talking 30 million quid to do a 6,000 seat stadium. That's the money. I mean, we can go into.
I can't get my head around it.
We've covered the Saudi regimes have made an awful lot of money.
Yeah,
the two were probably connected.
Construction costs are obviously very high in this country.
Yes, they are. Yeah, I think people who've sort of got into houses and stuff like that can sort of talk about how money. I'm
disappointed by the size of Daily Mount, though. I have to say, I think it's low.
Well, there's a different debate.
Let's very quickly go to the John Smith Stadium, because it's Huddersfield against Liverpool in the late game at 5:30. Shane Pennington's been very patient. Shane, what is the team news? Because a lot of speculation about injuries on the Liverpool front. What have they done?
Yeah, very interesting from Liverpool's side of things. Jurgen Klopp's actually made 3 changes from the side that drew Manchester City. Daniel Sturridge actually makes his first league start since November last year, would you believe? He comes in alongside Shaqiri and Lallana, who also makes his first start of the season. And it's Firmino, Mane and Wijnaldum who drop out of the side. Fabinho and Origi also make a rare appearance on the substitutes bench here at the John Smith Stadium today. Huddersfield make just 1 change from the side that drew Burnley last time out. Florent Haderjanai starts. He replaces Rajiv Van La Parra, who also drops to the bench.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Shane. Enjoy the match. Huddersfield-Liverpool is the 5:30 game. Liverpool will be looking to go back level on points with Manchester City at the top, but City's goal difference is just getting better and better and better, and they've added a few more to it this afternoon. Yet another one at the Etihad Stadium for Peter Smith.
City 5, Burnley 0. Leroy Sané scoring the 5th in the final minute of the game, sweeping in across from the left from Mendy. City 5, Burnley 0.
And also another goal at the Cardiff City Stadium. What a day it is for the home side. Sam Fleet.
It's Cardiff City 4, Fulham 2, surely 3 invaluable points for the Bluebirds. It'll be their first win of the Premier League season as well, of course. It was Victor Camras's low cross on the right, and Kadeem Harris on as a sub was there to finish it from just inside the 6-yard box. It's Cardiff 4, Fulham 2.
Leon Blanche from our sponsors Boyle Sports is on the line. So Leon, we have the teams in for Huddersfield against Liverpool. What are the odds?
Yeah, I suppose, Nathan, this is where we'll see if Liverpool's backup players are up for the challenge. They've drifted a little bit, Liverpool, to win the game. Still overwhelming favourites at 1-3, but they were as short as 2-7. So obviously with no Firmino, no Mane, no Keita, it does make a little bit of a difference. But you'd still be expecting Liverpool. They haven't really played great this year, but they're still right up at the top of the table. And Huddersfield, I don't think they've scored a goal at home yet this season. They're as big as 10-1, and the draw is a big price as well. It's a 5-1 chance. So Liverpool, they want to try and keep pace with Man City. I just heard you there. Man City have scored 5 at home against Burnley. Liverpool won't be worried about the goal difference. They'll just be hoping that they can finish tonight on level points with Man City, because City are clear favourites to win the Premier League. I think everyone expects them to do it, but Liverpool trying to keep pace with the current champions.
And if you're tempted by a first goal scorer odds market, if you're looking at that, what are the odds for first goal scorer, Leon?
Yeah, look, Mo Salah, Johnny's best friend, he's favourite at 11-4 to score the first goal in the game. But Daniel Sturridge, I just heard they're making his first start in the league since last November. He's looked fit, he's looked quite sharp. He's available at 4-1, and there has been a bit of support for him today. And Shaqiri, many Liverpool fans I've spoken to, they've been a little bit disappointed with the lack of game time Shaqiri has received from Jurgen Klopp so far this season. Anytime he's played or come on, he seemed to have done very well. He's 6-1 to score the first goal of today's game. And I think if there's a free kick outside the box, I think Shaqiri will put his name on it. And I'm a big fan of his, Nathan. I think he's a bargain at 12 or 13 million. And I think getting a start today, it's up to him to show the manager, keep me in the team and prove Jurgen Klopp wrong.
The ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Listen back to your favourite News Talk shows at newstalk.com and on the News Talk app.
You're a smart guy, right?
But I still don't know what a Mitsubishi Electric EcoDan heat pump is.
Well, let's see. It uses heat pump technology to upgrade energy from the air through a process known as the vapor compression cycle.
Huh?
In other words, it captures free renewable energy from the air, providing reliable and efficient hot water and heating for your home all year round.
Stop!
Too technical for you?
No, this is my stop. I get off here.
Save on home heating and hot water with the Mitsubishi Electric EcoDan heat pump. Call 1-890-326-326 or visit mitsubishielectric.ie/heating.
When driving on a motorway, keep to the left-hand lane for normal driving. Use the centre or right-hand lane for overtaking only, and then safely return to the left lane. Remember to keep a good distance from the vehicle in front. Never stop on the hard shoulder of a motorway. It's dangerous, and it's an offence to do so unless your car has broken down. And under no circumstances should you ever walk on the motorway. Always expect the unexpected. From the Road Safety Authority, visit rsa.ie.
Weave your way along the wild Atlantic Way and feel the freedom of just being there. Whether you're captured by the unique beauty of Loop Head, the experience of savouring fresh local food from the Burren, or trying something new. Let go and embrace the Wild Atlantic Way of life. Plan your holiday now on the Wild Atlantic Way.
Bruce Betting Sportsbook, Casino and now Live Casino. Download the Bruce Betting app to see why for the Premier League, Bruce Betting are giving you more. With price boosts, live in-play betting, cash out and ACCA insurance. Make Bruce Betting your Premier League bookmaker. Bruce Betting, in-store, online and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
It's autumn, which means it's time to change your wardrobe. It's time to visit Kildare Village, where there's hundreds of new arrivals every week. It's time to find that fabulous investment piece, something iconic from all your favourite designer brands, all with up to 60% off at Kildare Village. It's autumn. Take exit 13 off the M7 for your style, your way. New arrivals for autumn at Kildare Village, where there's something extraordinary every day.
We haven't had a serious conversation about it
But then when you do start thinking about it, you suddenly go, oh, that's important.
But it's hard to think about it. You just presume that you go on forever.
But knowing that that's there, it's like a bit of a comfort blanket, isn't it? It's like it's just taken care of.
No one should spend time thinking about the worst things that can happen. That's why VHI has made setting up life insurance simple. Search VHI Life and get a quick quote, or call us on 1890 444444. VHI Healthcare DAC trading as VHI Healthcare is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland and is tied to Zurich Life Assurance plc for VHI Life Term Insurance.
Vodafone Comedy Carnival returns to Galway this October bank holiday weekend. With 75 plus shows and over 100 great comedians, Dylan Moran, Sean Locke, Reginald D. Hunter, Jason Byrne, Rich Hall, Milton Jones, Jeannie Asheray, Joel Dommett, Rhys Darby, Al Murray the pub landlord, and yours truly, Terry Alderton. Who is he? Ha! Vodafone Comedy Carnival Galway, Tuesday 23rd to Monday the 29th of October. Tickets on sale now from VodafoneComedyCarnival.com. Ha ha! Get your tickets.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
You're welcome back. We'll go through the full times in the Premier League in just a moment, but a reminder that next month, and just a few weeks away, we're going to have the latest Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. It's going to be live from the Olympia Theatre in Dublin on Tuesday, November 13th. We're going to have an all-star lineup, as always, with Ireland and All Blacks legends, which we're going to announce over the next few days. They'll be looking ahead to the clash of Ireland and New Zealand at the Aviva Stadium. Get on to offtheball.com/events right now to get your tickets. It is the latest Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. Remember, this event is for over 18s only. Visit drinkaware.ie. So, full-time results coming in the Premier League and in the Challenge Cup, where Sale have beaten Connacht by 34 points to 13. But a bit of a surprise at Molineux. It was Wolves against Watford and Clive Edwards.
Full time, it's finished Wolves 0, Watford 2. Both goals came in the first half in the space of a minute. Capoue got the first, Pereira the second. That really was the end of the game as far as Wolves were concerned. They showed very little to trouble the Watford keeper, Ben Foster. In fact, Watford played very well indeed throughout the rest of the game. Wolves looked a little bit under par. They rarely threatened the Watford keeper, and they'll be disappointed in this result. Wolves 0, Watford 2.
Moves Watford above Wolves, so Watford are 7th, Wolves are 8th, and when you look at those two teams, you'd probably think they've got top 10 potential in them.
That's why I was saying I didn't think it was a massive shock.
Maybe not,
on recent
no.
form, but Watford are a good side, like.
Very inconsistent, though. They could go out next week and lose 3-0.
Watford are a club, it's just, there's such a changing array of personalities and managers. It's very hard to, form a really strong opinion about Watford. You've probably been, Nathan, so you've
I've seen them a couple of times, so I have a little bit
Watford
of...
like?
I've actually never been to Watford.
Okay.
I was due to go there quite recently and managed to get to another game. I think it's maybe the only Premier League ground I haven't been to.
That would imply you didn't want to go there.
Well, I think there might have been a better match on. But I've seen them away from home a couple of times, and yeah, they can, even in games, they can be quite insistent. Like Pereira has flashes of genius and brilliance, which obviously he's showing a bit more form this season, and maybe he can be this year's Richarlison for them. But there's obviously something in the club that once they're safe and once they get comfortable, everybody puts the feet up.
They're just a modern Premier League club in some ways. They're an extreme version of it with no real, I wonder what sort of rapport there is between players and fans when it's so, and management when it's so ever changing.
Let's see what happened then between Bournemouth and Southampton at the Vitality Stadium. Alan Lewis.
It's finished Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0. I don't think many will be rushing out to buy the DVD of this one. Chances few and far between in the first half, but Joshua King almost scored within 60 seconds of the restart, flashing a header wide. The teams traded half chances after that. Ings and Højbjerg for Southampton, King and Aki for the home side. Armstrong came close to winning it late on for Southampton, but fluffed his lines at the crucial moment. And then deep into stoppage time, Gabbiadini headed over from 6 yards out. A good point for Southampton, but they've now gone 4 league games without a goal. Bournemouth 0, Southampton 0.
Yeah, it says something of Bournemouth's start of the season that a scoreless draw for Southampton against Bournemouth is seen as a good result for Mark Hughes' side. You sort of feel on 6 points after 9 games that Mark Hughes has another month or so before really the pressure comes on him. Quite frankly, being a Southampton supporter right now is the most boring role in the Premier League.
Yeah, and you think a couple of years back there was a lot of discussion about Southampton, such a sort of vibrant club, and I remember doing a piece here talking about, you know, their brilliant sort of behind the scenes sort of academy work. I mean, their academy still has produced top class players, but they seem to have just gone into this survival mode now. I mean, that was the basis on which Hughes basically got the job.
Well, really since Van Dijk left,
yeah,
that seems to have been the final straw of the 10 quality players that have moved through the club over the past 5-6 years. Since Van Dijk, not even since he left, since he decided he wanted to leave, it's all fallen pretty flat.
It just goes to show it's pretty brutal. You can only keep selling your stars for so long that eventually it just chips away your ambition to the point where you're just hanging in there.
Manchester City back on top of the Premier League on their own right now, and again racking up another big score against Burnley this afternoon at the Etihad with Peter Smith.
City 5, Burnley 0. Sergio Aguero maintained his goal-again record against Burnley with the opening goal in the first half. 2 quick-fire goals killed the contest in the second. David Silva set up Bernardo Silva for the second after Burnley's defence was static, expecting a penalty for Cork's challenge on Sane. Fernandinho claimed a third with an expert rising shot. Riyad Mahrez got the fourth with a curling stunner before Sane rounded off the scoring late on. City 5, Burnley 0.
Yeah, part of me feels we're still almost underestimating City and that they could just go on a run of winning 12 games in a row.
I think they possibly will.
I think today, if there were any suggestion of it being a 3-horse race, I looked at Chelsea today. I think it was like, this isn't going to happen anyway. And I didn't think it would anyway, but it looks. I still think Liverpool are big challengers. I just think Liverpool are going to steamroll teams virtually week in, week out, and if they can hang on in there in the big games and Salah starts playing well.
Well, today's probably a big test. They're away to a Huddersfield side who have done very little and look doomed to relegation and can score goals. But he has actually, for the first time, really had to rotate. So he's brought in Shaqiri, he's brought in Lallana and Sturridge. It's a very different Liverpool midfield and attack. He needs them to click in the way that a much-changed City team did today, like no Raheem Sterling in the starting 11 today. Those City players seem to be able to...
Yeah, and Huddersfield in the games against Man City last year, actually,
they just went 10 men behind the ball for the entire game and got away with it until the 96th minute when Sterling scored the winner.
So you expect it's going to be more of the same. So it is a test in that respect, definitely.
West Ham against Spurs was the match at the London Stadium. Guy Swindles.
West Ham 0, Spurs 1. Very professional win this by the away side. They grabbed a goal just before the break. Lamela heading home a fine cross from Sissoko, and then held on in the face of real West Ham pressure in the second half. 3 times, one memorably, Lloris somehow denied Arnautovic. They also had a goal correctly ruled out for offside West Ham as it finished West Ham 0, Spurs 1.
It's a strange one because Spurs are in third in the Premier League table, 2 points off Manchester City. West Ham are 15th, 2 points outside the relegation zone. Yet really the talk for the last month has been that West Ham have turned a corner and are going to be fine this season, and Spurs, well, didn't sign any players, and this is going to be a right old struggle for them.
Yeah, actually it is true. And, you know...
It's the recency bias in it because it's such a bad start.
I think, but that probably shows the extent to which the expectations of the top 6 are such that, like, their definition of crisis is very different to everyone else's. You know, and that Spurs, had the underwhelming sort of European nights, which has probably intensified that feeling around them. Whereas actually, league-wise, they've sort of been chugging along.
7 wins, 2 defeats.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really that bad. So, I mean, that is the good thing about the Premier League this year. The bad thing is the top 6 and how easy it is for them some weeks. The good thing is there's, with Arsenal coming back to a bit of form, like there is still going to be like a decent side or two that actually misses out on the Champions League place. So, or they all look to be at a level that come the end of the year, that's going to be a very interesting race, that who's actually going to miss out here. You know,
excited already, Dan.
That's something, but I mean,
race for the top 4.
But it must be deflating for the clubs further down who are taking these trashings occasionally, sort of week on week, and you're seeing some really, really, really one-sided games. But then that's the pretty much feature of every league in Europe at the moment. So there you go.
Big day for Cardiff City. They were at home against another of the newly promoted sides, Fulham. Watching this with Sam Fleet.
Cardiff's first win of the season, thoroughly deserved it was too. Fulham opened the scoring on the sensational long-range effort from Schürrle before Cardiff deservedly got themselves in front when Murphy and then Reed both scored. Sessegnon equalised before the break to make it 2-2 at half-time. In the second half, again Cardiff the better team, and goals from Patterson and then Harris sealed the points for the Bluebirds. Full-time, Cardiff 4, Fulham 2.
And to St James's Park, where it's Newcastle against Brighton. Adam Drury.
Brighton have beaten Newcastle by 1-0. They had to work hard for it as they stifled a Newcastle attack devoid of quality. There was a major setback early on in the game for Brighton when Glenn Murray was rushed to hospital after sustaining a serious head injury in a challenge with Fernandes. But the winner came in the 29th minute when Jose Izquierdo's edge-of-the-box strike deflected off Biram Kyle and cannoned into the net. A first away win for the Seagulls since January, full-time at St James's Park. They finished Newcastle 0, Brighton 1.
And it's the third win of the season for Chris Hughton's side. They move on to 11 points after 9 games and they are 12th in the table. But poor old Newcastle, just the 2 points, 2 draws, no wins from their opening 9 games, and they this evening sit bottom of the Premier League table.
I feel sorry for Rafa, in fairness. I know things are pretty bleak off the pitch, but they really look like they could beat Man United for much of the game, and now you're talking 2 points. And they were so poor against Man United. I thought it's the only time I've seen them this season. To be gifted a 2-goal lead, they were dreadful afterwards, I thought.
Yeah, it's hard to know how long the Newcastle supporters' patience lasts with Benitez, in terms of they understand completely that his hands are tied here, but also if the results aren't going, eventually they probably question whether he still has the same passion. Like, he hasn't hid his frustration, and if that's creeping into the players, well, then maybe you are better off actually getting somebody else.
Yeah,
or is he still?
I don't know. He seems to be very well liked still, and he also seems to have played it very cleverly with the Northeast press up there, and that he seems to be very, very generous with his time. And I mean, I'm sure he just really likes them, but I think there's obviously an element of
so cynical.
There's an element of strategy. Well, no,
I totally agree.
I don't know how they have enough time in their day between having lunch with Martin O'Neill and dinner with Rafa Benitez.
It works, though. It absolutely works. You know, if just play the press right, and you'll get a free ride.
Definitely, but I don't know. I think. I mean, you can't fool
Stephen
people.
Kenny not bring you out for lunch or something?
Great.
Not anymore.
I did want to actually just quote his thing in the programme last night because I thought it was well worth mentioning. If you can give me a second. Do I have time?
No, you do. For one more.
Because Stephen
Johnny
Kenny's
moment.
Even though, you have no issues, you're not a big fan of Distant Dark Side. That's what
Stephen Kenny's programme notes. He goes. He was on about like the legacy of this team and their hunger to win so many league titles. He goes, the number of trophies the team wins isn't the most important trait. The team shouldn't be defined by trophy count. The players' positive attitude towards playing football, their teammates and the club itself has been exceptional this season once again. It is important to dispel the current train of thought that it is in the DNA of Irish players to play a more direct style of play, that somehow being Irish, that you were inherently born with a skill deficit. And I just love that attitude.
He's probably emboldened at the moment. Things have gone well, but that is his philosophy. And
on his exclusive Newstalk interview with Joe Malloy and I, he did say he wanted the Ireland job down the line, but he wouldn't talk down Martin O'Neill, obviously, at the moment.
Well, understandably so. Well, he's obviously right in what he says. But 6 months into Stephen Kenny being Ireland manager, you can bring those quotes back to him.
I'm not saying he should be
Ireland
manager.
I see us going long ball. That's not what
he wouldn't do that. I'm
not sure that he would do that.
No, he wouldn't do that. But if Kenny had any problem with it, it would be the players' respect for him, and a lot of the players mightn't respect him.
Why? I don't think, is that
I'm not sure that's as relevant with him. I think the strongest voices in the
Rovers.
There was a bit of discussion. Yeah, but it was very different. I mean,
these are millionaires. Who's Stephen Kenny to these lads?
Well, I mean,
they're not the millionaires they once were.
Yeah, this is very different. Who would the dominant voices in the Irish dressing room be?
Maybe that's the problem.
Seamus Coleman, James McLean, who Stephen Kenny started his career. I actually don't think you'd have that issue as much as people think. I think that's probably the danger of that being overplayed. I think if we had Premier League stars and elite winners, I think he could dispense with players that might be an issue. So I wouldn't be worried about that. I think but I think one of the issues with Kenny, it must be said, is that one of his brilliant things is recruitment and spotting a player and working with them over time. There's only so much recruitment you can do in an
Here's
international
one for you now.
context.
Would he take the under-21 job?
Oh, he'd be absolutely mad to do that. Absolutely nuts. Nuts.
Why?
What's the benefit to taking it?
Massive step down in terms of real ambition. You're positioning yourself as inferior to the senior manager by taking that job. What other manager for the Irish? What other candidate for the Ireland managership would take the under-21 job?
I don't know. Is he a candidate though? Easy you can.
I think
if you take over
I think you would be in the discussion, but if you took over the under-21, it would be the most retrograde step.
Okay, if he takes over, the under-21s are criminally underachieving historically, so he's taken over at a low base where expectation can't be. And also, you'd imagine he'd be working with players that he will then have for the senior team. I'm just devil's advocate.
It wouldn't work.
This is very different to say Gareth Southgate and the England under-21s, where he can go and win a European under-21 championship and prove yourself. So say Stephen Kenny decides, actually, I listen to Johnny Ward, that is a great idea, and I'm going to go in and take the under-21 job for the next couple of years under Martin O'Neill, and he does a brilliant job and he develops loads of players. Well, those players are very quickly going to be taken away
straight away
to the senior team.
Oh no, that's fine.
And suddenly the legs are taken away from under you.
He's also taken over a 19s team that is doing quite well under Tom Mohan, right? So he's taken over. The under-21s have been shocking.
But what if Troy Parrott goes straight into the senior team next year?
Yeah, but his role is just to do a good job. The under-21s.
Johnny, there's not a chance that I don't think he would leave the job he has at the moment.
Question.
There's not a chance he would leave the job he had at the moment. I think maybe the Dundalk gig 18 months ago, pre-investment maybe. I think now Champions League next year versus a team that has 10 games a year. No.
But it's where does Stephen Kenny want to go? Because I don't think he's going to get a big job outside of the Ireland job. So he's not going to get a big job outside of Ireland. So if he saw this as a means to an end, maybe. I don't know. But I know he clearly wants the Ireland job.
He's got a better chance of getting it off another European run with Dundalk than he would with the under-21 job. And there's more chance, I think, of being successful with Dundalk than there would be with being the 21 team because of the points that Nathan mentions there. 21's job now should be for an ex-international. It should be a Robbie Keane, or it should be someone to get them
them
onto the ladder. Kenny doesn't need to do that. That's a lose-lose for him as far as I'm concerned.
That's great stuff as always. We'll talk to you again over the next week or so. So the plan for the rest of the show is we'll take a quick break, then we're coming back and we're going to go around the grounds and bring you the detail of the afternoon's games in the Premier League, and we're also going to go back to Thomond Park and get plenty more reaction to Munster's victory over Gloucester. We'll hear from the head coaches and we'll hear from Alan Quinlan as well. That's all coming up next.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Bobby's Late Breakfast.
It's a rat trap this Sunday, and we'll open the cage when Boomtown Rats guitarist Gary Roberts drops in to talk about the band's long and winding career. One of Ireland's most decorated rugby players, Rob Kearney, he'll join us for a chat about life on and off the pitch. Plus, there'll be live music courtesy of Bagatelle and live food courtesy of Derry Clark.
Bobby's Late Breakfast.
Join me this Sunday from 9 and let me ease you into your Sunday.
On News Talk.
Here's another safer motoring suggestion from AXA Insurance.
Whatever the reason, be sure to check your tyre pressure every month. The right tyre pressure means maximum road grip and saves you money. Correctly inflated tyres means maximum fuel economy for your car. The pressure details are in your car's handbook.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya. Freddie's right. Can you go a bit higher, Ivan?
If I go any higher, only dogs will hear me.
Try.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya.
Here, come on. How many more Galileos do you want?
Calm down, Ivan.
There's only room in this band for one hysterical queen.
Next Wednesday on The Hard Shoulder, to mark the release of Bohemian Rhapsody in cinemas, Henry McKean is on the hunt for Ireland's biggest Queen fan.
So if you think you could be champion, break free and email me now on henry@newstalk.com.
The Hard Shoulder with Ivan Yates.
With Nissan.
Weekdays from 4 on News Talk.
Who is Galileo anyway?